Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Set the Tone. Today's a very special guest once again. This episode's topic is actually Rohit Raju, More Than Meets the Eye. There you go. Perfect. So, glad to have you on, of course, as well. And just some little housekeeping real quick. Draston's actually back in town. He's in the studio audience, which is great. And he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. I'm paying by the hour to do my computer and tech work. So super appreciate him for that as well, too. But I'm glad to be here. Glad to have, of course, a longtime friend that I've actually known since 2007. Believe it or not, you originally were a co-worker at the old stop the old lame stop, as I call it these days.
Yeah.
How they're still surviving. But you were my actual, because I came in as an MIT. I was a manager in training, and you were my actual trainer at your store. And very quickly, it didn't take long to figure out that we had a lot of the same interests and as well too. But I've been saying, and I even have in my notes here, we've come a long way from gaming Gears Horde mode and drinking whiskey or getting hammered playing that for hours at night as well too. Or you say?
I will say I missed that, and because in the winter, that was when we would like just let off some steam, play Gears. What else would we play though? We'd play some other stuff too, or maybe I'd be playing one thing and you'd be playing another.
Yeah,
and we would just be in a chat, just shooting the shit. And I'd be drinking like my rum and diets, and you'd be drinking something, and we would get hammered, and then we'd have to go to work the next day, or maybe it was like the week. Well, of course it was retail, so it wouldn't matter if it was the weekend.
Right.
But I do miss that, and I haven't gamed a lot. I still game in the wintertime. And we'll have to do that this winter. I've done some gaming this summer. I just jumped back to Red Dead Redemption 2, which
Nice.
I absolutely love. And I beat the game, but I'm going through it as John Marston now, and I pretty much did
Is
the
that
majority.
the end?
Yes.
That last part.
But I found a new cutscene, and I was like, "What?" So, but I think they added some stuff in since I last played it. But that's one of my favorite games of all time. The first one too. But like on road trips, someone's going, "What's the plan, Dutch?" Now listen to me, Arthur. You know what I mean? It's always that. Well, I don't know. Hey, that game is so quotable, so memorable, but yeah, I do miss those days of the GameStop. I was one of the first ones to have a house, so we'd have all the house parties after KBW. Almost every weekend, I think, had a house party, and we would get destroyed.
You are on point for how some of these conversations are going to go. Exactly.
I can only imagine.
Some of those nights were pretty wild indeed. So, but that's a good pivot there too. So as far as so I'm kind of want you to give two introductions. So first one, I want you to give Rohit Raju, the wrestler, and then Rohit, the nerd of fandoms. Just kind of list off some of your big fandoms and things like that, because clearly most people know, like I said, the wrestler version of you, but I want everybody to also get a little taste of, outside of the ring as well too.
And that's why I'm happy we're doing this, because normally when I do a podcast, it's always a new podcast, and it's always the same questions. Who's your favorite wrestler? How'd you get into wrestling? What's this? How was it feeling? And I love talking that stuff. But as far as Rohit Raju, the wrestler, it's always the jaw-jacking, back cracking. God treated all men equal, and then he made me the sequel. His mother calls him son because he shines like one. Rohit Raju, the mocha skin manimal himself. And I love professional wrestling. Absolutely love it. I've always loved it since I was a kid. So happy to have the chance to be a part of it. It's very bittersweet for me right now, because I'm on kind of the outside looking in, like, man, what I would give to get back on TV with TNA or anything. But the wrestling gods have just not been in my favor. So it's a hard pill to swallow, because I don't know if I'll ever get back there. I hope I will in some form or capacity, but that relevancy just kind of fades away. So that kind of sucks. But I still love being on the road. I still love traveling. I still love being in the ring. And I think that love will always be there. I love performing, and it's something I don't think will ever go out of my blood. As far as fandoms go, man, I'm at a crossroads with Star Wars. When I was a kid, that was I loved everything Star Wars, and I was really iffy on the prequels. I do enjoy the prequels, but I would never argue that they're good movies. I do understand why people enjoy them. I enjoy them, but like there's a lot of things that I'm like, oh man, they could have done it better. And at the time they came out, I remember even us having so many conversations like, this is why I don't like them. This is why this is good. This is why that's bad. And then I was excited when Disney took over. And then for me, it's just been a very bumpy ride. Wasn't a fan of the sequels. I loved Mando season 1 and 2. Loved the majority of Ahsoka. I didn't like Obi-Wan, but I liked all the stuff with Obi-Wan and Vader. I just didn't like the series overall. Loved the majority of the animated stuff. Was not a fan of the Acolyte at all. I think that was, especially for the hype that it had, not that good. I was a fan of Andor, looking forward to season 2. But I just don't have faith in current Lucasfilm anymore because I feel like they have the wrong people in charge. And the fandom right now is just so split. It's almost become like politics. It's almost become like Democrat and Republican, where I'm right in the middle. Like, I understand why you like this and I understand why you hate this, but there's reasons why people like it and there's reasons why people don't like it, but there's also reasons why it's either good or it's not good.
Right.
And the fandom right now is so torn apart that I don't think The Acolyte was a good show.
Right.
I don't think when you're watching stuff like The Boys, Fallout, House of the Dragon, and then you go back and watch this, you're like, no, there's no way it's a good show.
I think most of our crew kind of feels like that. Like, this is a very subpar storytelling, subpar characters. The idea, a lot of what they have there's a really good idea there.
Hands
it
down.
was just absolutely like mishandled, I think, in a way.
Yes.
But, and honestly, like, I want to soon we need to, I mean, this is of course a different version of today, but very soon my goal is to get you on here so we can do that. I think there's a lot of things that, you know, we've already said but need to be said as well too. Because it's a minefield right now if you're a Star Wars fan. It's tough. It really is. It really is. But outside of Star Wars, which is a big one for you and always has been, because Luke, your favorite character, would you say? Okay.
I'd say my favorite is Vader.
Okay.
The villain, not Anakin so much, but just Darth Vader.
Yeah.
But I do love Luke, and that's just like that Rocky story.
Yeah.
Outside of that, Lord of the Rings, I fell in love with that. I knew of the Lord of the Rings. I'd watched the Hobbit cartoon as a kid.
Yeah.
But I wasn't really deep into it.
There's a way.
Or my nephew and I always sing, "The greatest adventure." Is it juicy, precious? Like that.
Juicy, yes. Precious, yes. Yeah.
What's it have in its pockets, precious? That version of Gollum was great. But I got really into it after the movies came out, which were like a huge event, which they knocked it out of the park. And so I was a big fan of the books. The Silmarillion is actually my favorite book.
I was going to say that I've got a feeling Silmarillion is your favorite of all.
It's just because it's like the Bible for it, and it's like the Lord of the Rings touches on what was, and then the Silmarillion shows you what that was, and you're just like, man, and it's a whole different world of just fantasy, and it's so cool. Transformers I loved as a kid. G.I. Joe, Kung Fu movies, martial arts movies were huge. I got into a lot of Hong Kong cinema, like a lot of John Woo flicks.
Once Upon a Time in China?
No, I wasn't. I'm not a big wushu guy.
Okay.
Like the wire work. I prefer more of like the Bruce Lee style.
Okay.
So like Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee.
I like both.
I do in a sense. Like I liked Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon because of what it was.
That was a masterpiece in cinema.
But I I'm not a big fan of the Once Upon a Time.
House of Flying Dragon or Daggers.
They're not bad. Yeah, I love like for as far as my favorite Jet Li movie is Fist of Legend. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And then there's Fist of Legend, and what was the one he came out with where he was Hu Yun-ja?
Hero? No. Shit, I know. It's right there. I can think. Is that the one where he fights Donnie Yen?
No, he. Spoiler alert.
You're gonna say the one.
He dies. I like the one actually.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
A lot of people didn't. I liked it. For what
it was so campy.
It was
for Jet Li. It just felt like it was trying to literally be the Matrix.
It did, and I did like it, but I totally understand why people didn't. It's not a great movie. But I can't remember what it is. But it's he passes away in it, or he dies in it. But it's like Bruce Lee did a movie called and Fist of Legend and Fist of Fury. They're pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
Where Hu Yun-ja's student Chen Zhen
you killed my teacher.
That's it. Why? But it's about Hu Yun-ja, who was the Sifu, the master. What else?
And didn't originally when they were released in the Western side, they actually flipped the names in some of those too.
Yes, because Big Boss was Bruce
actually
Lee is Fist of Fury
Fist of
here,
Fury, yeah.
and Fist of Fury in China is Chinese Connection here.
Right.
And then Game of Death is Game of Death, and Enter the Dragon is Enter the Dragon. And then Return of the Dragon was
Gotta love that film.
Chinese Connection, maybe. No, it was Way of the Dragon.
Way of the Dragon, yeah.
Yeah.
That is still to this day. I mean, it's because
Bruce Lee
they
and
get,
Chuck
they get in the Coliseum.
Yeah, Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris.
They do the
that
thing in the
fight.
Coliseum.
Yeah.
I own 8 VHSs, 3 of the Star Wars behind me, and then there's 5 Bruce Lee set out there, 5, 4, 5, whatever set it is out there, as well too. It's because I also grew up on that stuff as well too. So outside, what else? Are there any other couple fandoms you want to throw in there as well too?
I mean, video game wise, Red Dead, which we were kind of talking about. Love Skyrim. I'm curious to see what happens with Elder Scrolls. I loved Gears 1 and 2 and Halo 1 through 4. I mean, there's nothing. I like the Final Fantasy is a good chunk of those. There's so many video games.
You like anime?
Oh shit, yeah, anime.
Damn, I should sit in your seat.
Yeah, you should. Naruto. I like Dragon Ball, Full Metal. Either one is fine by me. Death Note, Cowboy Bebop might be my favorite.
You didn't like the live action.
I did not like the live action
people
at
didn't,
all.
I feel like, yeah.
No, I thought it started off good for me, and then they just made it vicious. They changed some stuff around that they didn't need to change around, and I just wasn't a fan of that. I don't think I've liked any live action anime except for One Piece. I liked One Piece.
Everybody
a lot.
says that's good, and I never got into the anime.
And
so.
I tried to get in the anime, and it was just too long.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And
too goofy looking to me.
Yeah, it was. But for some reason, the live action hooked me. I don't know what it was,
weird.
but
That's
it hooked
crazy.
me.
And that's what I hear. Everybody says.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm somebody who likes Gurren Lagann, and that's
Yeah, that's way out there. Yeah.
way out there.
Yep. It's like
2007.
Fooly FLCL was like so weird.
So,
and
yeah,
odd.
some of that shit's just so fucking crazy. But
Yeah.
you watch Cannon Busters
Nope.
on Netflix? There's some good shit on Netflix recently. It's really random.
I've been slacking, man. I did like. It's not an anime. It's more of an American one. Blue Eyed Samurai.
Yeah,
That
I need to
was
watch that.
excellent.
I literally am halfway through the first episode and just
Yeah.
I consume so much for Banter and Babble proper that it's tough there. And by the way, I do want to take a pause here. How do we sound out there between the two of us, guys? If you're out there listening, I know we did a sound check early on, but we didn't get a chance to do it with Rohit because, as always, we're babbling our mouths off. That's what we do at this channel. So let us know how we both sound, if you don't mind. Meanwhile, Drassen, the Dungeon Master Prick, is out there trying to beat my scores on my pinball machine.
I heard him.
And so
Oh, he just did.
about the same. We sound fine. Okay, we sound all right. About the same.
That was great.
What do you, Blanco? What does that mean? About the same? Just kidding. And listen, I don't want to clearly get into too much wrestling, but I do have a few things I feel like, from my perspective, that I feel like are some important stuff to ask as well too. But how about any updates right now, like as far as maybe promotions you're focusing on, if you have, and like at least maybe a belt status? What does that look like right now?
Well, and back to one thing I didn't mention. A lot of Marvel stuff too. But even before Marvel became like,
Because you're a big guy.
I was a
big comic guy.
Yeah, big comic guy. Even the boys, like I read the boys before, and when I found out they were doing a live action,
you were one of the first. You were the one. Actually, you were the one to say, "Hey,
Yeah.
you told me like, doing the show, you need to be ready for this."
Yeah,
so.
it was really good.
Yeah.
But as far as wrestling goes, I'm a tag team champion with my boy Karam, the Hustle and Muscle top tier, which actually I have them in their bags right here. Every time I go to top tier, Hamilton, Ontario, they hook up the bags. It's really cool. It sucks though because it's Canada, and they'll give you stuff from a dispensary, but I can't bring that back. So, which really sucks because when my back is jacked up or my body, a nice gummy will make me feel so good. Yeah, it's just like put me at ease, which I love. I would prefer that over like a Tylenol or something of that nature.
Right.
At least if I'm going to bed.
Gotta just get a hold of RVD.
Yeah, dude, I went to RVD is like one of the coolest guys ever. When I first met him when I was at Impact, we had a show at the ECW Arena in Philly. He took us all out to, I think it was Tony Luke's, and it was like one of the best Philly cheesesteaks places, and because he recommended it, and we went out there and we hung out with RVD, and he bought us all, the Philly cheesesteaks, and he was just one of the coolest guys.
Yeah.
And it was cool because I got to wrestle Sabu plenty of times, and also not only that, but every time I'd see Sabu, he'd give me a big hug, which is like a lot of people, they don't expect that, which I thought Sabu was there when I was green as grass. And then we actually wrestled in Impact, and he was trying to push for us to have a feud. He's like, I know this guy. I know we can put on good matches. And it made me feel really good because, he doesn't do that all the time.
Fucking Sabu.
Yeah, it's Sabu. And then just hanging out with RVD as well.
Jesus.
So, whereas when I say like, oh yeah, wrestling's kind of bittersweet because I wish I was someplace else, bigger. But the fact that I got to do stuff like that, I have to remember that's huge.
That's big stuff.
It's really really cool. But also a tag team champion AAW with Karam Hustle and Muscle, and then just randomly Sheldon. Sheldon used to wrestle for Impact as well. And he was also in Big Brother. He was on Big Brother Canada before COVID hit. But we're tag champs in BCW up in Canada over there in Windsor.
That's awesome.
They just kind of threw us together, and it's funny. Our tag team name is Rogue Squadron, and the guy that
awesome.
named us, he's like, "Oh, I didn't even know it was Star Wars." I was like, "Yeah, so that's perfect. Let's keep that."
Roll with that.
So tag team champ there, no singles titles, just because Carm and I have really been trying to establish the Hustle and Muscle again.
It's such a fucking cool tag team.
It is, and it's just really fun to team with him. It's so easy. We just know each other so well. We have great chemistry.
Those promos you guys used to do at AAW.
Yeah, man.
Dude.
So much fun.
Dude.
And he gets it, you know what I mean? And he's the big guy, so he can be like the powerhouse, and I can be the little shitbag.
It's so awesome.
So it's so much fun. No really main focuses. I really want to get back to TNA. But it's so hard. I mean, they're doing their stuff with NXT right now. So it's kind of like one of those things where you're out of sight, out of mind. I was in talks with them at one point, but the guy that I was in talks with, he ended up leaving. Oops, sorry, I'm like spitting. But I didn't know he left. And so now I have to kind of start all over again. So I'll send them my plans for creative. But so many things have changed. I don't know if they're bringing on new people. I don't know what they're trying to do. So it could be like a really good thing or a really bad thing. I hope to go back there.
Right.
If I had some connections like at WWE or something, I would definitely contact them and try to be a manager. I would love to be a manager there because I'm older in their eyes. Even though I can still go and wrestle, like I can wrestle forever. But in their eyes, I guess I might be considered too old, I guess. But I would love to manage somebody there and just help get them over and just pass on what I know to other people.
Yeah.
And then just to say, hey, I was in WWE doing something. And also not only that, but learn how they do things because that's a whole different world.
It is a
and that's
whole
like
different world.
the mecca of professional wrestling. So I would love to get my chance there, but it's so hard to make that happen.
I mean, but correct me if I'm wrong. A lot about that business really is sometimes who you know, right?
It is who you know, but a lot of it now is social media. It's engagement. Really? Yes.
So if you're doing really good on social media, they're like, oh, look at that, you got a following.
Yes, you have a following, so they'll pay attention to you. Even if like you went viral with something, I always say, I use Ethan Page, who is now NXT's champion, which is awesome. But I always said he's the best businessman in professional wrestling.
Yeah, man.
Because Page knows how to market himself. He already had a brand. He had a brand before he was in Impact. It grew there. He had a brand when he was in AEW. It grew even more. And now his brand is going to grow beyond.
I just saw today.
Yes.
I just saw today.
He had that autograph, that meet and greet stuff. And it's like, so he has done it so well. And Danhausen's another guy, he the power of the promo, the internet, stuff like that. These guys know how to market themselves. And that is something I don't do. I was doing YouTube for a little bit, putting up shorts, and then YouTube, and I was getting some good views. And then YouTube was like, well, they're not going to promote your stuff if you're only a shorts channel. So I'm like, I don't really have videos that are interesting. I do want to kind of do some videos where, and I'd have to get the proper equipment. And I think I might do one while the Acolyte news is hot.
Yeah.
And I just want to talk about the Star Wars fandom and just kind of go into that.
Sure.
Just like a quick 15-minute video on just how bad it is right now and talk about all sides of it. But I'll see how that works. I don't really expect to get any views, but it's like really just blowing off some steam.
Not only that, but and you know this as well too. No matter where your take is going to fall, it's going to be a volatile conversation, and that's something where, like, whatever, I know we've talked about it too, like whatever we can do to help you get to where you want to need to be or start, like, you know, you can always lean into us for that as well too. And that's part of the reason why, like, even though tonight's more of a heavier Q&A to get to know the real Rohit, you know, down the road here very soon, because you literally live right around the corner. It'll be a place where you can come here and also vent, and we can have just conversations and get some of that stuff out there as well too.
Yeah, I think that would help too, because you guys have professional equipment. Well, I'd be just recording on my phone.
I got any of this stuff just came from Goodwill. I stole it.
Oh, that's cool. That's smart.
Yeah,
that's how you do.
discount.
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Right. That's what. That's right. That's right. But just like I said, a few more wrestling questions, just only because it's even stuff that I don't know necessarily that I am privy to. But you know, as far as a kid, when do you recall leading up to, or at what point you knew you were like a wrestling super fan? Because I can kind of recall mine. Like, I know, because I remember watching it, but then there was a point I felt like I knew that this was beyond just like one of those things where like I was just going to be into for a while. I mean, I feel like growing up, like it kind of came and went too. And I lived rurally, so I didn't always have access to cable TV. So you were lucky to watch a lot of that great stuff that I know. Like some of my favorite of all time wrestling is still old school WCW, NWA stuff. But what was it for you that made it so that you were like, I'm a super fan. If I could ever do this someday, I want to.
It was right away.
Right away.
It was the earliest memory. I was just hooked. It was like watching Star Wars for the first time, or seeing Bruce Lee for the first time, or Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 80s. It was like when I saw Arnold, the first time I saw Conan the Barbarian.
Who?
Arnold.
Arnold.
Yeah. You killed my people. You took my father's sword. But like when I saw Arnold, I was like, I want to look like that. And then I wanted to be in shape. Then I saw Bruce Lee, and I'm like, well, he's more my size, and he's kicking ass. Like, I want to do that. Yeah. And then I saw professional wrestlers, and I was like, well, these guys are in shape too. I want to look like that and do that. And then, so it was the same feeling when I saw all those. I knew, I was like, boom, this is it. And I never stopped with wrestling. Even when I wasn't watching, like there was a point where I wasn't watching WWE, I was probably watching ECW, or I was getting into Japanese wrestling, or watching lucha stuff, or indie wrestling, finding out what Ring of Honor was for the first time, finding out who Bryan Danielson was, Loki, Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe, finding out these guys.
Loki, that's a name I haven't heard in a minute.
Yeah, but just finding out these guys when they were wrestling in high schools, and I'm like, man. And then I always wanted to do it, but I never thought I was big enough until I saw guys like the Rey Mysterios, the Eddie Guerreros, Juventud Guerreras, like even Benoit, Dean Malenko, guys like that.
Like seeing them in ECW or WCW, like
yes,
doing the
it was the cruiserweights when I saw them, and I was
Man.
like, these guys are awesome. And that's when that's what I would tune in for, was that. I remember the WCW's undercard, WWE couldn't touch it. Like it was WWE's main events at that time. To me, that were like larger than life. Steve Austin, except the Intercontinental time when like Steve Austin was still Intercontinental champion.
Oh God,
The Rock was coming up.
Role,
that stuff, and like Undertaker, Brett, and Shawn Michaels were on top, and even Sid. But I thought like the mid card, beginner card, WCW had on lock, because that talent was just insane. Like those guys, and they had international exposure. But I never stopped being. When I was a kid, and I always say this, I used to have a yellow Superman shirt, and I had my mom cut it in the back, and I'd do, you know something, brother, and I would have this recorder, and I would take any of her tapes that she didn't need for school anymore, because she would record like the professor, and I was, hey, can I have this tape? And I would record over it, and I would wrestle this big teddy bear. And I would record myself cutting promos and acting like Vince McMahon. Here we are with Hulk Hogan, you know. And I would do all the voices, and I was hooked. And then I would take GI Joe guys. I started buying all the ones that were like built, and I'd take them apart, and I'd put all the pieces together to make wrestlers out of them. And I have a notebook at home still that's of pay-per-views, wrestlers' names.
Jesus.
Yes, and I was dead. And I had every day.
Yeah, you were okay.
And no one knew this, because you were a dork. Like, oh, it was a dork to do this type of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I would get into e-fetting, which is like just role playing except professional wrestling.
Yeah, so is it the online e-fetting kind of thing, or is it like
yes. And actually, one of my really good friends, one of the coolest things is when I started wrestling in St. Louis. People that I e-fedded with, who I kept in touch with for years, started to come watch me.
Holy
and I actually
shit.
saw one of my good buddies the other day. He came to a show, the last show I did, he was there. And it was just so good to see him. And there's a guy I talk to consistently, Kurt Sloan. Love you, Kurt. He's battling cancer right now, and he's such a good dude.
But he's
Kurt
such. I don't even know.
Yes.
I know him by proxy because he's always such a good guy.
Man, Kurt, I hope you're watching this too, man, because I'm giving you a shout out.
Yeah.
Kurt he made, when bobbleheads were first cool, he made me a Mad Dragon bobblehead.
Yeah, dude.
He made me these little action figures.
Man.
And Kurt has been, besides you, Kurt has been my biggest fan, my biggest supporter. And he's always sending me new things. Hey, you should try this in the ring. Check this out. And Kurt, and it's all from E-Feds. And it's just, we've been friends forever.
That's wild.
And I've never met him. I never had a chance to meet him. And he was supposed to come down to one of the shows in St. Louis, but then he had got sick and he couldn't. And it was such a bummer. So I want to go to Colorado and wrestle just so I can see him and he can come watch me wrestle, and so we can go get food or something.
Well, hey, we're pulling for you, man. I don't know you personally. I know you via Facebook posts and stuff like that. I know you support, Rohit well. So
yeah, Kurt's the man. Love you, Kurt, for real.
Kindred for sure, man. So be well, brother. I'm really sorry to hear that for you, brother. But man, that's unfortunate. But
yeah, but see, in wrestling, it's always been there. I've always done something. And then we'd go to wrestling shows. I remember skipping school to get tickets when Raw or Nitro came into town. And then I would go, and when the wrestlers would come out, I'd cut promos. I'd act like I'm Dusty Rhodes' daddy. Or you want to talk to me about being, doing shit. Going to basketball tournaments, and it's like 12 o'clock at night. I'm running up and down the halls, doing Ric Flair promos, right, losing my mind,
right,
and it's always been there. And even as an old man, I'll probably be like, "Hey, young whippersnapper,
right,
I'm gonna tell you something real quick," and then do something stupid.
Do you ever ask the lunch ladies if they wanted to ride the Space Mountain?
Oldest ride in the park, longest line.
So as far as all that, which is, I had a feeling that was probably the case. But you don't have to answer this. It might be kind of a hard question to ask too. But what do you feel like since you've become a pro wrestler? What is your biggest regret?
Biggest regret is probably leaving Impact.
Okay.
I didn't want to leave, but at the time, and this isn't talking bad about the company, but the money I was getting and where I was in life, it wasn't matching.
Sure.
So, I wasn't living at home with my mom. I wasn't living in an apartment. I had a home, a house.
You're surviving, yeah.
Yeah, I was, I had adult bills and stuff, and I was making good money wrestling on the indies, but I never knew when I was getting paid, and I never knew, when it was coming in. But I didn't want to leave because I loved that place. I loved everyone there. But I couldn't find a job at the time because I had no insurance, no 401k, no nothing.
That industry is very tough overall.
It is, unless you're making that really good money.
Yeah, it's tough.
You might not be, and so
you guys get hurt easily.
Yeah, and it sucked because a year later I found a job, or a while later I found a job that, it was about a year, I found a job that worked around wrestling. And it sucks though now because I think I really kind of burnt a little bit of a bridge there. And they'd bring me back for certain things, which I appreciated. And when I remember I went down there, I hadn't seen anybody in forever, and it was like going home. Yeah. Honestly, it was. Everyone just,
you can tell big it's hugs. Different.
Yes.
You can tell it's different there.
It was, and I love it there. That. Like when I was, and this isn't
a lot of love.
Bad talking like AEW or nothing, but when I went there, it was like being in a big high school. You know what I mean? It was just very cliquey and just weird, and people didn't seem happy there. A lot of people didn't seem happy. It was cool. I liked it. I thought it was a really good experience. I was very thankful. They treated me like I was signed. They paid me good money. Yeah. They flew me out. They put me up in a hotel. I was having a blast. They gave me promos, but it just never went anywhere. And that sucks, But when you'd see, it was like Impact, everyone was looking out for each other. And there, it felt like everyone was looking out for themselves. And but maybe it wasn't like that, but that was just the vibe I got.
Right. And I
But
think
I wanted to go back to Impact, and it just never happened.
and I think
now.
and as far as AEW, and this is from an outsider looking in who loves AEW. Don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, they got great
I've been
people
there since I've been watching Dynamite since episode 1, but. It's a big roster, and they're huge on clicks and stables anyways. So, I can kind of see why it's a little bit more difficult because you gotta climb through a lot of people to get your face out there. So
Yeah.
if you're on darks and things like that, it's much harder to do that.
Yeah.
But you can just tell with Impact now TNA again.
Yep.
I mean, they got a Slammiversary this weekend as well too.
Yeah, big shout out
Looks
to
like.
Jake something. I think he's wrestling Santana, so kill it, bro. I know you will. And just the whole roster, they've been killing it right now.
Yeah, they're doing
especially
a great
with the stuff
job,
with NXT. It's such a good.
That's pretty cool.
But it's cool because they've been Impact. Even when I was there, it was killing it, and they haven't really. Everyone used to treat them like crap. And now that WWE is partnering with them, they're like, oh, everyone's like, TNA is great. It's like, they've been great.
Some of us have been watching them a little bit consistently for the last few years.
Josh Alexander, Brian Myers, Eddie Edwards, Moose, Jordan Grace, like
Chris Bay.
the Rascals, Chris Bay, Ace Austin.
Bay.
These guys have been, Joe Hendry. Now everyone knows who Joe Hendry is. Joe's always been funny. Joe's always been creative. Joe's always been entertaining. But now it's like, it just makes me so mad because a bunch of these fans that are singing their praises used to be the one crapping all over them. It's like, and like when LA Knight, right? LA Knight is one of the most,
and he's never changed.
He's never changed. He's been
just got a bigger
same guy.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. And that's what makes me mad. And it's just it's weird. Fans are so weird if they don't know. Ethan Page, well, this guy sucks. He's just an AEW jobber. Now he's NXT champion. Why? Because he's getting used differently.
Fight anybody that talks shit about Ethan Page.
His talents are getting, you know what I mean? His talents are getting used correctly.
Right.
So now he's a star.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I wish people would get out that mindset. When people see me, when I was X Division champion, when I first won, this guy sucks. He's been losing for years. Guys, I don't write the matches. I don't say I'm going to win or lose. But when I got the ball, I ran with it, and everyone's like, oh, I didn't know you were that good. Oh, I didn't know you could talk like that. Yeah, you just crapped on me because if they tell you I suck, then I'm going to suck. If I continuously lose or I'm not put on TV, that's what you're going to think. But there's so many great wrestlers out there that all they need is a chance.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all they need.
Yeah.
And when they get that chance, they end up shutting everybody up.
And the reason I wanted you to highlight that with everybody is because I knew what you were about to say is some really important stuff as well, too. So, not to dive into it, and we're not going to tonight. Trust me. I'm telling you guys, you're going to see a lot of him around because there's a lot of stuff he wants to say and a lot of stuff I want to say, but I also want to hear him say more, even though we probably do that, 90 times throughout the week anyways. But, and the reason is just because that fandom is very toxic. And there's most fandoms right now are super toxic it's because of online and social media.
Yes.
But
yes, it is.
That's a whole other pathway we could go down. But I wondered if your biggest regret would be leaving Impact when you did. But what is your proudest moment in
X
wrestling?
Division champion run,
hell
baby.
yeah, damn right.
But that's the thing. It's like I'm very competitive, but I'm competitive with myself. So where I should be very thankful for that, and I am, but I don't want to be a one-hit wonder.
Right.
Because I know I'm better than just being a one-hit wonder. I have so much to offer.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And but that run was so special to me because I came from nothing and turned it into everything. And they trusted me. They let me cut promos.
Little buddy.
I was wrestling so
we miss you, little buddy.
And that's what makes me mad is that they never retweeted that stuff, and that stuff was gold.
No, that stuff was great.
It was gold, and they never. But that was before, we were really doing a lot of digital stuff, and but that stuff was gold.
Too.
Yeah, and it's so funny. I saw a, the Fala spot. I had posted it where, Scarlett was doing the butt thing. And she hits Raj with it, and I pull him out. Yeah. And then I get in there. I'm like, give it to me, give it to me. And I've seen so many other people do that spot afterwards. But I'm not saying, well, they copied me, but it's like, yeah, we were innovative too, but it just never got the love.
Yeah, because it was,
because it was us.
Because it was,
Yeah. That's
Impact,
why.
but I figured that would be your proudest though.
It is, man. And I
that's such a
honestly,
fun run.
I want one more crack. That's all I'm asking is one more crack at it. But it's not up to me.
Well, I'll make a call.
Yeah, make a call. Yeah,
I'll
do
just
that
make
for
a
me,
couple
brother.
calls, see what I can do. I mean, I clearly, I was a big fan of that run as well too. And like you talked about how people, and I can tell you firsthand watching, you start with Impact and watching the chat, because at first people were shitheads.
Oh yeah,
they were just being a bunch of racists, all kinds of stuff with you. And I knew, because I'm in there in the chat, like I'm fighting people.
Yeah, you're fighting.
I was fighting people constantly. But then there was this turning point when when you started really getting deep into the X division, and they started letting you do promos, and you started doing your jokes and your bits like you usually do.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, people were like, "Well, that guy can really wrestle.
Yeah.
Oh man, he's really kind of funny."
Yeah.
And then they started seeing it, and then you won the X division, and then all of a sudden it was completely different.
It was
you had to win them over. Which still, if you're a racist, you're a shitbag anyways. But
right.
At the very least, I mean, you organically got yourself over.
Yes.
And it was cool to see that, because that's one of the hardest things to do.
It honestly is. And I feel like you just got to give me the opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
And that was going back like to AEW stuff. Like I always
They just
felt
had to
like,
give you a mic.
Yeah, but I just don't think Tony was a fan.
Yeah.
If Tony's not a fan, he's not gonna.
Yeah.
If you don't wow him in some way, and I think he was more of a moves guy. And I've never had a real conversation, but I could tell when I would watch him watch matches.
Mm-hmm.
And when my agent at the time, they're like, hey, if you want Tony to watch, you have to do something that's going to wow the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Me wowing the crowd, I can do some cool stuff, but I'm not a flippy guy. I like to tell my story on the microphone and then go in the ring and tell the story and get booed out of the building. But then when they would give me those promos on the mic, when they gave me that one with Tony Schiavone, everyone thought it was great. And I don't remember what he said, but I remember people that I didn't even know were coming up to me. Mm-hmm. And they were like, dude, that promo was great. When you said you can't spell Rohit without ROH, wow, we popped in the back. We popped in the truck. And I was like, I don't know these guys at all, but they're in production and they liked it. I got to be doing something right. And then for the longest time, the boys there, a guy I wish I could have kept touch with, and I hope I'm glad to see him at TNA right now, Dolph's brother, Nick, or is it Nick? Which one's Nick? Nick Nemeth. And,
shit.
Oh, gosh, I can't believe I forgot his name. But he's a cool dude. But there's a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
They thought it was signed.
Yeah.
They're like, you're not tier 0. I'm like, no. They're like, you've been here for like almost a year. I was like, I know. They're like, what the hell? I'm like, I don't know.
Just walked up to Tony and been like, yo.
We used to joke that he probably thought he signed me, but he didn't know. He forgot.
I mean, that's part of the joke with the roster. I mean,
no, he knew. I just think it was with me, especially because it was dark. It was, hey, let's get the foreign viewer. But I'm very Western. So to plain eyes, they're like, oh, he's Indian. He has an Indian name. He'll get over with the Indian crowd. The Indian people are very proud people. Mm-hmm. So I'm very Western. So if I'm not speaking the language, carrying on the customs, they don't like me and I'm a heel. So I don't practice fair play. So I don't have a lot of fans over there. I have a decent amount, but I'm not pulling big numbers. Right. You put someone like Shira, Jorah, Bhupinder, you put those guys, they draw big because they were from India.
Right.
You put me and Raj together, True Raj, Champagne Singh, he's Puerto Rican and Indian, you know what I mean? And he grew up in Calgary.
Right.
So, and he does speak, the language, but we're not very culture-ish. Yeah. I'm the least out of all of them. And so where people thought it was really cool that I was X Division champion, I turned into 98 Dwayne. That's what I wanted to do. And that's when I started wearing those shirts and acting like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was also a coward. And so people over there, they didn't like that.
No.
You know what I mean? So but then again, I'm proud of that following, the little following that I have and to represent them, but that's not what I'm going for.
Yeah. Well, it's a shame, that sometimes we still have to, and I understand from a business standpoint how this sort of things works, and the cultural stuff is, it makes a lot of sense and things like that. Yeah, I get it as well too. It's just a shame because, that happens a lot to you, and because I've seen it for how long at this point now that you always get put into a certain group of whatever. But, yeah, it's just it's just unfortunate because again, you transcend all those things. You take so much inspiration from the old stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see you do a lot of the little things, and a lot of people don't see that, and that's important stuff that I look for. That I know that is important to you as well too. So, you'll get a crack at it. You still got time. You'll get another crack at it. I definitely believe it. But when we first met, of course, it was at GameStop, and all of a sudden I was like, hey, and I don't know how much you can talk about this if you can.
All right, let's talk about it.
You were like, hey, I wrestle, and this is when you guys were still doing the
KBW.
Kings of Brutal Wrestling. I got 2 DVDs right over there in the cabinet. Matter of fact,
I found
of the matches. There you go, and doing yarding, and you mentioned the parties and things like that. So, you were known for drunk escapades at times as well too. Like it used to get a little crazy. So, matter of fact, I heard.
Oh Lord.
Who'd
you talk to?
I heard that you were found one time face down in a toilet
You talk to me.
at a local bar here in the area.
Yes.
Or maybe it was the time that you ended up in the backseat of a stranger's car while you were so drunk.
Were you there for that? We went out to Denny's after a party, and I thought you were there. Maybe you weren't. Maybe you left. We went out to Denny's, and I was pretty lit, but I wasn't that drunk, but I was lit. And I got into the back of the car, and I'm having a conversation, and I turn, and these people are just looking at me like, I'm like, oh, shit, I'm in the wrong car. I was in there for probably like, I'd say 2 minutes.
Did you just...
I'm looking forward, and I'm just like, hey, guys, blah, 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 blah. And then I look, and everyone's looking at me like, bruh, dude. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry I'm in the wrong car, and I got out. And I can't remember if they laughed or not, but everyone's looking for me. They're like, where are you at? Where were you? I was like, I was in this car. I thought that was the car. But no, drinking with my brother-in-law, who owns a bar, and who's been drinking his whole life, and he can put it down and not be drunk.
Right.
I decide randomly we went into the bar on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, let's go see Chris, And he's like, hey, you want to take some drinks? I'm like, sure. He's like, want some shots? I'm like, I'll take some. It was like Crown Royal or Red Stag or whatever the hell he drinks.
Yeah, right.
I'm a lightweight when it comes to that.
All he wants is Diet Coke and what is it? No,
Bacardi or Southern Comfort.
Okay. Yeah, you still like the Southern Comfort as well too. Yeah.
But there was. Well, I'll tell you that story next. But yeah,
about the
next
boat?
thing. Yes, it is. You talk to Amanda.
You don't know nothing. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to her too. But yeah, next thing I know, I went to the bathroom. I said, because I thought I had to piss, and then I don't even remember it. I just know I went in the bathroom, and next thing I know, I was puking, and I was face down in that gross stall.
In a bar stall toilet.
Yeah.
Say that again. You were what?
Face down.
Face
not
down.
in the toilet like a swirly. I was on the floor. No, I was on the floor.
Sure.
Yeah. Nah, I probably would have drowned.
Okay.
But no, I was face down on the floor, and they had to come get me. And I don't remember much, but I remember being helped out because I was so messed. Yeah. The other time I was on a boat. We went on a boat up north. It was something I love doing. And I didn't eat. And I drank, I think, a pint of SoCo. And it was like probably 90 degrees out. And I don't remember anything. Like they have pictures and I don't remember it. And I just remember, the next thing I remember is they were holding a trash bag and I'm puking in it. And that was the last time. After that, I said, I'm no longer drinking like this anymore. And I stopped drinking.
That's funny, Brittany just said, sounds like dude from last weekend.
Really?
He got so hammered last week, and that's the same thing. I'm never drinking again.
Well, I didn't. I stopped. I think it was during COVID. And I stopped.
Man, that's when I drank all the time.
I did too for a while. And that's when I had the hot tub. And I'd come home from work and just drink and just hang out in the hot tub and be feeling great. But I stopped drinking because, and I drink now but I drink very moderately.
Yeah.
There's a few, my body knows when it's like cutoff time.
Sure.
And I eat a lot and I drink water and I make sure I hydrate myself like throughout the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was so upset with myself and I was blacked out. I don't remember anything because I don't know if I did something stupid, embarrassing, what it was. And I was just ashamed of myself, really.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm too old to be drinking like this. So I stopped drinking heavily.
You hear that, dude?
Yeah, I stopped drinking, and that's just me. And then I just really focused on getting into really good shape, and I was probably in the best shape since from then on to now.
Yeah.
And I'd say I'm not as in good shape as I was, but I'm still in good shape. I'm more bigger now and thicker, but I always like that cut look. But because I look at old like even when I was X Division or even after I lost it, that last run I had in Impact TNA, I was in such good shape, but I wasn't drinking at the time.
Right. I do remember
And,
that.
Yeah,
I do.
was like, hey, you want to go out and drink? I'd go hang out, but I wouldn't drink.
Right.
And that works. If you want to get in shape, like I had abs again, and I was just shredded and just like a shit brick house of muscle. And it was a lot of it was because the alcohol kills your good fats.
Yeah.
And I drink now. I like to go out and hang out and shit. And I can tell it affects my body. But
Right.
I don't drink like that anymore. I don't want
Yeah,
to.
I do something the opposite where I drink so I get one ab.
You get the keg ab.
Yeah, the keg ab. Yeah, that's I just thought that was something that would be fun to address because
yeah.
because outside of your awesome stories there too, like those parties after Sunday night used to be the drinking night.
Yes.
And for a while there, I was really classy. I was just drinking Black Velvet and Cokes.
Dude, I used to drink that too.
Dude, it was getting
I used to drink everything at that time.
Do you remember at your wedding that I was drinking? One of these mugs might be from your wedding. I was drinking SoCo straight.
I think that is from the wedding. Yeah.
I think it was too.
Yeah.
I got a couple of these, but I'm pretty sure one was from yours. But I drank a fifth or two. I don't know how much I drank. I just know that my SoCo was full the entire time because I just kept pouring it. There are parts from that night that I don't remember.
Everybody was drunk but me, because we were going around taking all the pictures and taking care of everybody. And I remember every time we'd have a drink, we'd set it down, it'd be gone. But it was fun because everybody had a really good time, and I'm more of a host than anything.
It was a good
Yeah,
time.
Yeah, and I'm more of a host than anything, so I like to see other people having fun.
Yeah.
And just even at my house, we'd have such a good time. But at that time, I was drinking anything. I was drinking Jaeger, vodka. I remember puking up. There's that time I think you and Sean came over, and I got super hammered, or maybe Sean was just there. Sean Powell.
I mean, it could have been. There was many nights where I don't know how I got to wherever I had to be after we were partying there.
Dude, I got so drunk. I remember people left, and I was just sitting. I fell asleep. I passed out sitting down against my refrigerator, and I woke up and puked, and I don't even remember what it was. But I remember puking up one time. I would drink Malibu rum and pineapple juice.
Oh God,
and I puked that up, and I
sounds
never
so good
drank
right
that
now
again.
too.
Oh, it's brutal. It burned my throat so badly.
Yeah.
But I would drink Jaeger. I would drink Jaeger straight.
Oh yeah, me too. Me too. Me too,
Dude,
man.
I don't know how my liver
There were
how it survived back then.
I've had some patches of dark times, and the period the reason I moved to Saginaw was because of you, Prime, Black Magic, Matt, Chris, and Chad. Those are the five main reasons that you guys were the five people. Why? Because I was living, 45 minutes away in that small town, driving here for work and then going out partying and then driving home and somehow making it home and then turning around and doing it all over again. I was in Saginaw 3 nights a week, easy at the bar, hanging out with everybody and doing stuff. So then Matt, Chris was like, "Hey, this place is opened up. We got a room." And I was like, "Sweet."
Yeah.
So I moved in, and then that was just like balls to the wall at that point.
Yeah,
that
dude.
was balls to the wall at that point.
I won't lie, I do miss those parties. Because we had everybody.
Dude, and then we had parties sometimes too, remember?
Yes. I remember chatting around the fire.
Yeah.
The first podcast.
It's funny that
was one of the first guests on there,
Yeah.
and we were talking wrestling, and I wasn't signed yet.
The video of that is still over there on that laptop over by where I sit.
It was CRTF.
CRT, chatting around the fire.
Yeah.
CRTF. Yeah, you were one of the first guests on that, and that's what inspired me actually to do this, which I wanted. I've been working on for 4 years to be able to do this.
Yeah.
But, was to get back to that kind of conversational piece. And ironically enough, and this is just really random and super off topic, but one of the podcasts in 2007, 2008 that inspired me to start podcasting back in 2008 before anybody knew the word. Like there was no one that no one knew what it was.
Right.
That podcast, those guys got back together in the last couple of weeks and have been podcasting again out of nowhere. And I texted Matt Chris one night and I'm like, "Are you seeing that?" He texted me first. I was about to text him. Just really random, but yeah, that's how long that I've been on and off doing this kind of shit. But when we did it back then, it was just little known stuff, and it was video then too. You know, but that was we'd get hammered doing that shit.
I have another embarrassing story is when I was in high school. I used to smoke weed a lot, and we bought a pack of blunts, and we filled every blunt, and we used to shotgun. So like somebody would blow it, and we'd inhale it.
Oh yeah.
We smoked the blunts, and I was like, oh my god, I don't know how many blunts we smoked, but we smoked a lot,
dude.
I was so high. I'm like, I gotta go. I walk home. And I see people playing basketball, people I knew. So I'm like, I'm going to go play basketball. I was playing basketball. Don't know how I survived. Next thing I know, we're hopping the fence. And I'm like, what are we doing? They're like, you said you want to go play volleyball across the street. And I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, you were talking about you want to play volleyball. I'm like, I got to go. So I'm walking home. And then I swear there was 4 girls, little girls, all dressed in pink, came up to me and said, "You're Brittany's brother. You're Brittany's brother." And I'm like, I don't have a sister named Brittany. And then one of them starts crying, and I'm like looking around, freaking out. I'm like, I gotta go. And then I still had like 2 blocks to go. I don't even remember getting home. I just remember washing my face, and as I'm looking in the mirror, the water would hit my face, but then I would feel it like 5 seconds later, and I'm like, I am high.
You needed to take a shower.
Yes. Well, then I called my buddy. I said, hey, did I do anything stupid? He's like, what are you talking about?
Angel dust, man.
I couldn't remember anything. I've never been that high in my life.
Wow.
I was so high.
Gnarly.
I was like, did I do anything weird? Did I do anything stupid? He's like, no, man. I said, dude, I'm so high right now. I'm so high. And I almost blew out of my mind. Oh, the first time I took a gummy, too. They're like, here, take this. It's going to help with your back or whatever. So I took a full gummy. And I'm like, I don't feel anything. And I took another one. And I was like, oh, my God. I remember it hit me, and I was just like, what the fuck?
Edibles,
I was like,
man.
Holy shit.
Edibles for me nowadays. I'm big into the vape or the edibles. Shit, I was actually gonna have the vape on me with the show as well too.
I would prefer that over anything though. And I don't even have any, but
Well, let me know. I think I got some around here.
But I honestly, when my back is like really bad, I would take one, half of one, and I'd sleep like a baby.
Man, I like to get and I'm the opposite. So like I like the sativa because I got the
is that the one that hypes you up?
Yeah. Okay. So like I'll like all of a sudden want to do chores. I'll drive around town, go grocery shopping, or go to different stores and stuff like that. I love that. It's like on a Saturday taking a sativa gummy and just buzzing around, man. It's great. I love it.
How crazy is that? Now we have all this weed, but like back then we had skunk, dime bags, and nickel bags, dime bags, ounce.
Bro, when I roll into a parking lot and I can smell skunk weed, I'm just like, dude, what? We're past that, bro.
You're way past that.
You got
that shit better cost like $1.50.
Right,
to get
right.
Some of that.
Going through all the seeds and stuff. That was the word. When you were low man on the totem pole,
that's what you got.
That's what you. Well, not only that, but like whoever got it or whoever, if you're the new guy, or you were like, oh, you got to go through the seeds because that's how you started out. Yeah, I couldn't roll with shit.
And then you're like, man, I think I'm just gonna smoke with these seeds in it, bro. They pop.
They pop. Yeah, pop. Or you try to do it in like a can when you do like making like an aluminum can.
That, yes.
Jesus Christ.
It burns your throat.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah. Well, once I got the volcano vape, I stopped smoking like analog like that.
Yeah,
the big old
mist.
Yeah. Oh god. Yep, yeah. So, but then like, I think it's my allergies. I think I've got a light allergy because of the flower or something in marijuana fucks with my asthma and my allergies and all this shit. So I stopped. I really slowed down for a long time, and then all of a sudden the vapes started coming out, and then the edibles were accessible. I'm like, this is like a different world. Like the vapes are still a little bit harsher, but when I found the gummies, I'm like, fuck, bro, because you can take a gummy and it might be 45 minutes, it might be an hour and a half, and all of a sudden it hits you, and you're like, fuck, I'm installed.
Yeah. Or you're like, but you're not moving at all.
Right.
You're like, why am I moving so quick? Like, bro, you can stand there for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, but your job of the hut was good. That was awesome.
I remember, well, it was funny you said you were allergic to that. And I did like a deep dive, and they always said Bruce Lee died from hash. He was allergic to hash.
That's what we thought was growing up, right? All that?
Yep, because the the first time apparently he did it, he
Was
had
why
to
it
go
was
to the hospital.
yeah, that's right.
And then apparently, because they tried to say he died from like he had allergic reactions like aspirin or something.
Yeah.
But I think he was smoking hash and his brain swelled.
Yep,
and he
that's what it was.
died in his sleep.
Hide your mind.
Yep.
Damn. So anyway, so that's good stuff, and I knew we would probably get off kilter a little bit on that, but we've talked some wrestling more than probably you'd normally like to. I know, but it's some good stuff.
I like talking shop.
Now that we got that out of the way, now let's get into some like I said, I want to go a little bit more Q&A with you, so I'm gonna have to throw some stuff at you as well too. So let's say outside of wrestling growing up, what was your let's say 5? I want to hear 5 major brands, and you probably did it at the beginning as well too, but 5 major like brands or something that you like that was like your favorite, whether maybe a toy or something, or just a cartoon, or just whatever it could be.
Well, I think it probably goes back to like the fandom thing.
Yeah.
GI Joes were my toys.
Yeah.
Love the GI Joes.
Snake Eyes.
That
Big
was my
Snake Eyes
favorite.
fan, yeah.
Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. Ninjas.
Ninjas.
Like I was a kid, I loved ninjas.
Right.
Like I said, martial arts movies. Basketball. Big Pistons fan. Detroit fan.
Fuck yeah.
Bad Boys. Michael
Yeah.
Jordan. I know you're not a big Jordan fan, but
Do you remember that?
I was a Bulls fan. I used to love that, and I never really cared who'd won out of Detroit and Chicago. I just hope they beat LA or Portland, whoever did win.
Right.
But it's funny because I'm not really big into sports anymore. But when I played basketball was my thing, and I knew everybody's stats, everyone's stats. Used to collect the Topps cards, and that was the main thing. Sports was weird for me though because my mom and dad divorced when I was like 3. You know what I mean? So I never had my dad in my life, and I never had a male role model. And I never forget how embarrassed I was. I was at a friend's house and we were throwing around the football, and his dad was like, he's like this big, he was like a cop, and he's like, big macho guy. And he's like, you know how to throw a football? I was like, no. He's like, your dad never taught you? I was like, he don't live with us. He's like, huh. And it kind of made me feel so stupid because I wasn't.
That's shitty.
Like,
Really? You did that?
Oh yeah. But dude, like just back then, and of course back then too, things were still so. You had a role, and so my mom was taking both roles, and she didn't know anything about sports, so she could try and help me however she could, but it was embarrassing for me, and I'd get frustrated because she didn't know, and so I would always have to learn all that stuff on my own, how to shave on my own, watching YouTube videos, trying to teach myself how to shave. When I decided to shave, I wanted to shave. But yeah, so that was always weird when it came to sports. But I think that's part of my drive.
Yeah.
But it's way off topic, unfortunately. But that's where my drive comes from because it was never having that acceptance. It was never there. Always from my mother, but just like from my peers. And so that's always like a major thing for me. And that's why I'm so driven, no matter what I do, whether it's work, wrestling, in the gym. It's never good enough. But I think I turn that negative into a positive.
Yeah.
Although it can turn into a negative sometimes. It can bleed
If it
into
turns
that.
into an obsession.
It does. And some like wrestling is an obsession, and I'm trying to pull away from it, wean away from it, but it's always in the back of my mind, and then something will remind me that could be you, and it's like fuck, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
But no, I guess wrestling would have been a brand. Oh God, what else? I guess like it was WWF at the time and NWA. I guess Transformers. I was
wondering if Transformers was one.
Yeah, Transformers, Silverhawks. I wasn't a big GoBots person, but I watched it.
GoBots is where you.
The GoBots. GoBots.
We'll still throw moon rocks at people like GoBots. Wieners.
Gummy Bears, Mask, Jason the Wheel Warriors. Dude, that song.
Still.
The power inside.
Yeah. All those cartoons.
Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, Sesame Street, anything Jim
Yeah, you were a
Henson.
big PBS guy too.
Yo, God.
Yeah, we were. Yeah. We've talked about that.
When I
too.
leave the house, I put Sesame Street on for my dogs.
That's awesome.
And then, were we talking about the Mr. Rogers? Yeah,
we were talking. Yeah, 'cause we were talking about how. Yeah, we were recently talking about Mr. Rogers, and it became like this massive conversation with like 3 or 4 of us. And
we
normally
weren't
just talk
even
Star
drunk or
Wars.
high or nothing.
Yeah,
Why
and we were just
wasn't?
back and forth messaging about Mr. Rogers and the importance of how he was to a lot of us growing up and stuff.
If you are a fan of Mr. Rogers,
Or even if you're not.
Go watch just watch the trailer. It's a documentary, and it's the documentary, like, you'll cry in it. But it's called Won't You Be My Neighbor? And I got goosebumps right now just thinking about it. But it hits very hard if you know who Mr. Rogers is. But it kicks you in the nostalgia gut. And I think it's the first trailer, but it's Won't You Be My Neighbor? It's a documentary, not the Tom Hanks movie, but that was good too.
That made me cry in the theater.
But what was that called?
Baby.
The Tom Hanks one?
Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Yes, which was also good.
Yeah.
Mr. Rogers' speech about when he would say, because people always thought he was joking, but I never forget, they brought out this little kid that was disabled. He was on the show. And then when he got his Lifetime Achievement Award, they brought him out as an adult. And Mr. Rogers didn't even wait for him to get announced. He climbed the stage and gave the kid a hug and he was a grown man, and embraced. But he always said this thing when he was winning or an award or getting whatever. He was like, I want you to close your eyes and imagine someone that's so proud of you, of where you've come, what you've accomplished, whether they're alive or dead. And he goes, I just want to give 10 seconds and I want you to think about them and how proud they are of you. And then people would laugh at first, but he was dead serious. And then he was like, I'm going to keep count. And then people would close their eyes and he would look at his watch and you'd see people in the audience crying because they're like, it hit them that hard. It's Mr. Rogers, man. And then with stuff like that, Sesame Street, there was a Canadian one called Pinwheel, 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 spinning around. Here's my pinwheel. Look what I found.
I don't know if I remember that.
My favorite time. I always have conversations with people. They always say, if you can go back to a certain time, where would you go? As a kid, that was the greatest thing for me.
Oh yeah.
But USA Cartoon Network.
So that's
Eureka's Castle. That's Dark Crystal, Labyrinth.
Oh God, yeah, all the hens.
And there's not even brands, but I'm just naming all stuff that I like.
So that's a good spot too. So, top 3 cartoons as a kid. What were your top 3 favorite? I know it's not easy,
tough,
but I got to see if you can do it.
G.I. Joe is definitely number 1.
Okay. You gonna say Hulk Hogan in the whatever?
Rock and wrestling.
Yeah.
Hulk. Meow, 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 meow. No, because I thought it was dumb.
Figured G.I. Joe would be 1.
I want to see Transformers, but I didn't get into Transformers until later. But I guess Transformers, because even from as a little kid to like even my teen years, Transformers was really huge for me.
Still is.
Yes,
some ways.
I still love. What is it? Freedom is the right of all sentient beings. Like, I'm freedom
for all sentient beings.
Oh, jazz. I actually had that on today. That first one.
That's great.
Yeah, Peter Cullen's a man. Batman the Animated Series.
Oh, good one. Okay.
Fucking one of the best cartoons ever made to this
That's
day.
a good top 3, man.
I watched that. Good Lord, man.
Yeah.
And then I reposted it, but they had Kevin Conroy's last.
Saw it.
Dude, it was so good. He's like, even at this moment right now, there's something. He's like, I get to spend my last moments being the Batman. I'm like, what? Oh, wait, what a last line to have. Like, God.
That's wild.
And that's my favorite Batman, and Mark Hamill's my favorite Joker.
Yeah.
Like, I love Heath Ledger, I love Jack Nicholson, I love Michael Keaton, but out of all of them,
I think
those are my favorites if we count them, if we want to count those two, not just live action.
That's why I do either live action and voice. I have to separate because
yes,
Keaton and Nicholson are my favorites, but
yeah, mine too.
But man, Conroy and Mark had been doing it for 30 fucking years, man.
Dude,
like,
remember
you know what I mean?
when we had the Vegas convention?
Yep.
And they had the people from Las Vegas's Lion King, but they were dressed up in Arkham. It was when Arkham City
was about to come out.
So when we used to go to GameStop conventions, they'd have like, when we went to Vegas, they'd throw like a huge thing. And so they were hyping
like
up.
a mini E3 kind of in a way, but we'd have guests, they were trying to all that stuff.
So we didn't know this, but all of a sudden, like, they have these people running through the crowd, they're Arkham inmates, and all of a sudden the Batmobile rolls up. Well, I'm thinking, Batman's gonna come out and start beating up these guys. The top opens and out pops Mark Hamill And
we were sitting next to each other too. Remember?
I got goosebumps again.
I know.
You want to talk about in wrestling? They call it the Road Warrior pop.
Yeah.
You want to talk a pop? The crowd losing their shit. You have over 5,000 nerds in one place,
And
everyone.
Right.
He had probably a 5-minute standing ovation,
dude.
and then we didn't know he was going to do the voice again because he had said his voice was like really
That was
bad.
during that. Yeah, he was having some issues.
He was having issues. So, and this was supposed to be his last time doing it. And he came out and he was like so cool. He came out and dropped a bunch of Joker lines, and it was just one of the coolest things. But those two together, it's just like it's match made in heaven or hell, whatever you want to say. But they're the tremendous.
Went and saw The Killing Joke in the theaters when that dropped in the Animated. That was awesome.
Yeah, I still like Mask of the Phantasm.
That's still awesome.
Like
I
wasn't
do
the
have
best, but I still like it.
I do have the full Blu-ray set when they dropped that. I know it's available now on Max and all that stuff as well too. But that was definitely a collection that I'm like I have to own that as well too.
Yeah,
just because I own that.
And even going back, so I know like a lot of people didn't like the Flash. I didn't expect much of the Flash, so when I watched it, I was fine with it because I knew the CG sucked and stuff like that. But I will say my favorite stuff was seeing Michael Keaton as Batman. I was like, this is cool.
That alone made that movie watchable.
Yes,
I mean because it was really good.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it for what it was. I didn't hate it, but I understand why people did. But I went in there with very low expectations.
Yeah, the CG was terrible in that movie.
It was terrible.
Awful. So
it's a shame.
So you're watching cartoons. It's a Saturday morning, or maybe it's after school. Whatever it is. You want a bowl of cereal. What's your cereal of choice?
Most likely it was either Fruity Pebbles, Frosted Flakes.
Okay.
Sometimes I would get Corn Flakes and put sugar on them and cut up bananas.
That's a good. Been there.
Same thing with Cheerios. But it was probably those. Closer to it as an adult, it would have been like Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Dude.
Fruit Loops or Apple Jacks.
Okay. Apple Jacks doesn't get enough love.
No. But now it's more of like Honey Bunches of Oats or like Raisin Bran,
the Grandpa
Honey Nut Cheerios, just for the heart. But yeah, and I do mostly oatmeal nowadays. And most food, my diet is like so boring. I eat a lot of rice, steak, hamburger, fish, some veggies and fruit. Anything that I just try to consume protein. That's it. Then oatmeal,
muscle milk, almonds.
It is muscle milk, almonds, cashews with cranberries. I used to eat. It was funny. I used to get in trouble at GameStop because I would bring plates of food and I'd eat it on the floor. And I was trying to bulk up and stuff like that. And I'd have like a full like chicken breast right there, and I would just be eating it. And I would always get in trouble, and I'd be like, man, my boss would come in. I'd be like, I got to eat this food, man. I'm trying to, get better. He's like, look, if you want to eat the food, just go on the back and take like 5 minutes and eat it. I'm like, all right.
The funniest is when we'd go out to dinners and like some of the people would just be like, oh, half my plate's food. And you'd be like, you going to finish that?
Yeah, and I'd eat.
You'd eat like 2 or 3 different plates that weren't finished.
Yeah.
It actually became a bit like everybody would just be like, start handing you the dishes anyway. It's like, you're done here. Give it over to Rohit. He gonna eat it.
Rohit will eat it. And I would. I would just clean up. Nowadays, I try to watch what I eat only in a certain way, just because I'm eating for it's fuel now. That's all it is. But then on weekends, I'll get like Sour Patch. If I'm on the road after the match, Sour Patch Kids, donuts, a lot of cheat stuff, and that's pretty much it. But I'm a pretty boring eater. I eat healthy, but it's very boring.
Yeah. You do cook yourself some pretty good meals, though. I do see when I know you love summertime, so you can get. I mean, you grill pretty much, I think, year round. But I know you like to throw a few steaks out on the grill as well too. So
steaks, burgers, barbecue, some Vienna Kogels. I'll put them in I'll cook them and then I'll put them in the foil and just put barbecue, slather them, and let them sit there for 5 minutes
with a Vienna.
And then I'll just eat them plain. And I'll eat like 3 of them at a time, and they had that like kind of burnt. I let them get a little bit burnt. They're so good.
Crispy.
Yes, dude,
do you like spice? Do you like jalapeno at all?
No, I'm a wuss when it comes to that. My mom used to make curry chicken, and I would never eat it. It just wasn't my thing. But everyone else would love it. Oh, is your mom cooking curry chicken? I'm like, yeah, I guess.
Shit.
And then she would have something. I was such a little shit. She'd have to make something different for me.
Yeah. Just give PB&J, I guess.
Yeah, I am super boring when it comes to food. Very boring.
So here's one for you, and it's funny because you named a couple of these. What intro to you is catchier? Darkwing Duck, DuckTales, Silverhawks, Thundercats, or fucking Gummy Bears.
Oh, dude.
What of those intros to you would say is catchier?
That's brutal. I'd have to say
It is brutal. That's brutal.
Silverhawks or Thundercats.
Silverhawks.
Wings of silver, hearts of steel. Woo, dude. But thunder, dun, 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 dun. Thundercats are loose.
We got a Darkwing Duck out there. I'm a big fan
Yeah,
of
but
Darkwing
Darkwing Duck is really good too.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even pick one.
Hey.
Now, if I had to pick a favorite, it'd be Silverhawks or Thundercats. But that's very, very small margin out of all of those because they're all great.
Well, and Darkwing's definitely. I don't know of this because
And DuckTales.
all
DuckTales
these.
is great
Well,
too.
that's the thing is like 2 or 3 of these I sing a lot. I was literally Darkwing is one of my probably. It might be my favorite of the Disney Run 90 cartoons. When there's trouble, you got to call DW. We all know
Yes.
that.
Yep.
But it also had my favorite character of all of those had Gizmo Duck in it.
Gizmo
He
Duck.
crossed over from DuckTales,
Blabber-
and you had
Blabber-
Launchpad
Blabber Sky.
McQuack.
Yeah.
My
Wasn't
other one of my
Launchpad
other-
McQuack and Tailspin?
No, he was in Darkwing. Remember, he was
Yes,
he was
yeah,
he was the one that I always call him DW.
Yeah.
What are we doing, DW? You know
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. And the villains in Darkwing, fucking awesome. It was like it really was a comic book in all sense. Like it was one of those things that was so good as a comic book. But I love out of all these. This is so tough because Silverhawks is so small and niche because it only had a small run, and I love Silverhawks.
Yeah.
But man, for me, it might be Gummy Bears. I literally sing that.
Gummy bears
Right.
bouncing here
All
and there.
through the forest,
Yeah.
they sing out in chorus. Dude, it's so good.
It is Gummy Bears.
Dratson's over there
That's-
shaking his head.
I did like
Dude.
that. What about Ewoks?
Oh,
That was
God.
horrible. Or what about the droids?
Well, yeah.
The droids.
I love the cereal. Right, right.
And the droids one. What is it?
I just wanted the cereal.
Stuck again or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
so horrible.
You're like, oh
In
my
trouble
gosh.
again. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Thank Jamaica.
Donna R2, what are you doing?
You know, it's funny. We forgot about when we were naming cartoons. I forgot about like any of the like stuff like Land Before Time, any of the Disney stuff, Secret of Nim. I forgot about X-Men.
I guess maybe I should have said series. Well, that's the thing is like I feel like, and that's where
'Cause I was still a teen or I was still a kid. I think I was like 10 when X-Men was
So
out.
I thought about some of those, but as those ones came later, more later 90s, and so we were
Yeah.
kind of like, that's more after school. So because that's tough. Because when you start throwing
Yeah.
that shit in,
Ronin
well,
Warriors.
then dude,
Wake with
Dude,
you,
you know,
Ronin
dude.
Warriors.
Sage of the Strata, like
That
what
was
is
so
it?
good, dude.
Yeah, and growing up, I never realized that a lot of the cartoons that I love, Voltron was Go
Yeah.
Lion.
Voltron.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
like all these
jeez.
cartoons were
He-Man.
actually Japanese cartoons that just were brought over Western.
Yes.
He-Man's still one of the best.
Robotech.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Robo
Macross.
dude. Yeah, man,
Yeah,
all
Astro
that
Boy.
stuff. But Ronin Warriors was one of those ones where
Ronin was great,
that was
dude.
I feel like one of those cartoons that
Anubis.
as I was probably 12 or 13 years old, like early 90s.
Yes.
Where it was like one of those for me, the first ones that was really kind of like teetering that like more mature line of like cartoons, like kind of getting away from the really kiddie shit. Even though when Power Rangers came over here, I was 14 years old and I think that hit in 94 or whatever. And like at first I was like, this is fucking live action Voltron.
It was,
and
yeah.
for me, like I was like, am I okay to like this? Because am I too old
Yeah.
for this? But I couldn't help but I fucking loved it. I watched it. It was Voltron drama, and I was hooked.
Dude, Green Ranger, White Ranger storyline was
Dude.
like one of the best things ever.
R.I.P.
Yes.
Jason David Frank. Got
Yeah.
to meet him one time. Got a photo op. Just
Yeah.
and he's so good to his fans.
He was. And it's sad because
was-
you never know what someone's going through.
Man, he was just it's unfortunate, but man, I mean, yeah, like you add those later year cartoons, even the Batman,
Yeah.
even Batman animated series.
Dang, he jumps down.
Yeah.
Dude, that Batman animated series, going back to it again, it's just one of my favorites of all
it's-
time. To this day, I can watch that and be like, this is great.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that just can withstand the sands of time.
Yeah.
You can go back and watch it. It's still a good show. So.
Yep. And don't even get me started on anime. I used to bootleg because I never knew what anime was. I knew it was Japanese cartoons, But I used to have Dragon Ball GT Final Bout, but it was in Japanese.
Yeah.
And I was like, "What's SS3?" And I was like, "What? Was that his brother? Why is his hair blonde? I don't get it." And then I used to bootleg, go to Comic Cons before they were big, so you'd have bootleg everything. I had Naruto before it was out here, like 3 years.
We were both like that. So
Yeah.
I was 2 years before it hit Tanami.
Yes.
I was at that point, started reading the manga, and then we were, after it came out in Japan.
Same. I was reading the manga when I used to work at Suncoast.
Yep. And then like the next day we had to wait. It was supposed to be 24 hours, 24, 48 hours. Somebody would translate it and bootleg it over here, and we would pirate it so we could watch it.
Yeah.
And we'd like, this is when before I was at GameStop, we'd all sit around in this little living room, the 3 or 4 of us, and just be like, new Naruto's on,
Yeah.
you know? So,
Yeah.
oh yeah, man. Oh yeah.
It was the Comic Cons back in the day. They were great because I watched them get rated because they would have like bootleg stuff like that you couldn't find anymore, and somebody would have it bootlegged. I had
Like the holiday special?
Yep, holiday special. No, seriously, and like tons of stuff. And Dragon Ball was one of them. And somebody would dub on the Dragon Ball. They would record it off Japanese TV, so you'd get Japanese commercials with it too.
Which is half the fun too.
It is, because some of that stuff's cool. But then you'd get one like Arnold would be on there, and he'd be doing those really weird Japanese commercials where he pops out. He's like a genie. It's for like a cleaning bowl thing.
Right.
And he's like, and you're like, what the hell am I watching? But it was like, to them, it was fantastic. But yeah, Tony Jaa. When Tony Ong Bak, before he was big over here, this guy had it playing on his TV. I was like, who the hell is this? And he goes, oh, the movie's called Ong Bak, but he was going by his Thai name at the time. I bought that sucker right away.
Shit, yeah, you did.
And then I would have viewing parties, and people would come over and we'd watch it, and they'd be like, what the hell? And it was like one of the best movies of, you know what I mean? So the action at that time.
You were the one that introduced me to Ong Bak.
Yeah,
Tony Jaa.
probably, yeah. But yeah, man, the cartoons, I found a station. There's a couple stations on YouTube. Oh, Inspector Gadget. I forgot about Inspector Gadget. Heathcliff, Garfield. Heathcliff. No, yeah. Oh, Fraggle Rock.
Oh, God.
Dance your cares away. Exactly. When I used to be in school, I would go do, 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 do. And then I would start humming the theme song, and I'd say it, and everyone would clap because they just knew what it was.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, man, it was so. But there's so much good stuff out there.
Yeah, it's.
The more we talk about it, the more it pops in my head.
Yeah, and I know, and like I went through a phase in the late '90s where I was massive pothead, and we would get lit, and there was 2 things we would watch. We would watch nature channels, because let me tell you something: when you're stoned, nothing is more interesting than watching migrations of birds and shit like that. 2, Cartoon Network, Johnny Bravo, Dexter's Laboratory, Cow and Chicken, like all that early like Cartoon Network shit from like the late 90s, early 2000s. It never gets, I feel like now, because a lot of other stuff happened on Nickelodeon, that shit never gets the love and that it deserved, because that stuff was fucking great.
Dude, early Clone Wars,
Got Gargoyles out there as well too.
Oh, Gargoyles! My God,
I've been rewatching that. I know, and I've been rewatching that slowly on Disney Plus for the last like year.
So good,
It's so good. That's an adult themed one. Though,
yeah, Gargoyles is great.
Awesome.
Ren and Stimpy, Rugrats,
Biker Mice from Mars,
Biker Mice from Mars, Street Sharks.
Street Sharks, I was gonna say that.
Yeah, Street Sharks.
See, all
Cops.
that good
Remember
shit.
Cops?
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody
The
was
toys were
sauce. Yeah, it was jacked out of their mind.
The toys were gnarly as fuck. Yep.
There was a Conan cartoon which I didn't know about the history of Conan. I just knew Arnold. So I was like, this is dumb. Who's set? I don't understand that. It should be Thulsa Doom. And then I got deeper into it. Remember when Roy, Comic Book Keith would come in and give us
Cool Keith.
I
talked to him about a month ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell us what's up if you see him. Well, he would always bring us cool stuff, and he would bring me Conan comics, and I was just enamored with the lore, and I was like, this is great. But there was a cartoon, and I just remember the guy who played Conan would yell every line, and I thought it was hilarious.
There was what was the cartoon that had awesome toys though? They never got all the toys. I wanted them so bad, but it was the Chuck Norris one.
He had like
it was Chuck Norris and like Alpha Squad or something.
Yeah.
Dude, I was way into that as well too.
Dude, RoboCop.
The RoboCop cartoon was gnarly. The toy, I had the toys.
Rambo had a cartoon.
All
Which was so funny. Like Rambo had a cartoon. Out of
Beetlejuice cartoon.
I do remember
Which,
that.
You see the latest trailer for that?
Boy, dude,
I think they're leaning into the cartoon.
I think so too, because there's a lot of nods.
Him and Lydia doing adventure shit.
Yes,
That's screams the cartoon to me.
I'm sold on that. Like, I can't wait for
you
that
see
to
what
come
Keaton's
out.
been saying about that?
No.
He's like, he said he wouldn't have. He basically said something to the effect that he wouldn't have signed on if it was the right shit and if Burton wasn't involved. And he literally said in an interview like a couple months ago that he is really excited about this movie. Like, he is like he everybody has to do the thing, right, where you say, I'm excited about this movie. No, he's genuinely like, he thinks this is going to be awesome. So that's exciting.
I'm happy he's getting a renaissance, because Michael Keaton's always been like cool. Just not even in like, when he did Mr. Mom and stuff like that.
I love that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? He's always been funny.
Multiplicity.
And then I loved him as Vulture. I think he was just so great as Vulture. But yeah, Keaton, he's always cool in my book.
He's the man. So we got to, and this happens a lot. This is how we talk a lot, by the way. Like, this is how it would be when we work together too. We'd talk about a topic. It would go here or there. Another topic come up. We go here or there.
Yeah.
This is literally just
spitballing.
Just always. So with all that stuff, I know you with cartoons and things that you like, you kind of dabbled in collecting. Do you still do any collecting at all, or is that something you've kind of laid to rest?
No, I laid to rest. I used to collect wrestling figures for a long time. I still have the ones that I like the Four Horsemen set. My favorite one's the Sting set, and it was like the many faces of Sting. It was like four. It was like Surfer Sting, 90s WCW Sting, Crow Sting, then Wolfpack Sting. And I got like a couple Road Warrior ones. Rick Rude had like the robe and the IC title and the big mullet. Dusty. And then I went on a collection of Japanese Star Wars figures.
Oh.
And so I picked up a couple Luke Skywalkers I want, like the Mayfax figures and the SH figure arts. They're super expensive, but they're articulate, come with like several heads and weapons and hands. They're normally like $90 to $100.
Yeah.
There was a few that I saw that I wanted. You helped me get some of the Mando figures I wanted. There was a couple G.I. Joe figures I ended up scooping up. But other than that, no. I honestly just stopped collecting, because it's like a rabbit hole, man. And you just go down it and you just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
And
well, yeah, it's like my basement's like a 14-year-old boy's.
No, but it's awesome. Like, and that's my thing. Like, when people say, "Oh, you're too old for that stuff," no, you're not. Yeah. Don't tell me if something makes me happy and it's not like drugs or something that's like bad. Leave me alone.
Meanwhile, Aunt Linda's got the craziest Coca-Cola bottle collection you've ever seen.
Exactly. Or they'd order stuff off, QVC, if anybody remembers that, like the old China. Break out the good China. Yeah. But it's just like, if someone's, just leave them alone.
I like to collect angels.
Yeah, but now this is more accepted. Well, back in the day, it's like, if I were to buy action figures, you're buying toys, it'd be embarrassing if someone saw you with a cart full of wrestling figures or something like that. But now it's more accepted, which is cool, because I think it's more accepted because we're the ones that are older now.
Right.
And like, when I go to the gym, I see
the world now.
Kids with like anime shirts on and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, you watch Yu Yu Hakusho, or you watch Naruto, or you watch Death Note, or,
dude.
You know what I mean? But it's funny because they're like, what Ninja Scroll? What's that? I'm like, oh
Jesus
you don't know
Christ, don't say that out loud.
You
Yeah,
don't know
what's
Akira?
up? Yeah.
You don't know Bebop? Like, what are you doing, bro?
Brittany went to Hot Topic today. She had to get some jewelry, and she came home with a couple of T-shirts, and one was a Tool, and she called it a vintage T-shirt. And I said, you can leave. Vintage? Come on. It is. Don't get me wrong. But I was like, man, that's just so... It's so weird to think that now, right?
Yeah.
Because we're talking... That's what we're talking about. We're literally talking... Wow. Let me throw this at you. About 2 months ago, I was sharing a meme around. I don't know if you saw it, but they said if Smashing Pumpkins had made a song about 1979 now, it'd be about 1994.
Oh my God!
Think about that. I literally wanted to call into work and just lay in a fetal position all day, because I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Right?
But the thing is, I do, when I see stuff like that, or like there's a new slang that comes out or anything of that nature, whereas it does bum me out, I'm like, that's whatever. Just kind of stay up on things. I was listening to Bill Burr talk about Bob Newhart, and he said one of the reasons why he think he lived till 94 was because Bob Newhart was never stuck in his era. He always knew about new shows coming out, new comics, and he paid attention to everything that was still happening. So he evolved with the times. He was still Bob Newhart, but he knew everything that was going on. And so I thought that was kind of cool. It's like,
you got to do that.
you have to, because I can sit here and say, well, back in my day, and it
Yeah.
is, back in my day was cool, but then again, there's somebody that's probably 10 years older than me saying, well, back in my day,
It's a slippery slope.
it
man.
is, you know what I mean?
It
And I
is.
do think certain things, like, I do think people should go outside more
Yeah.
and just enjoy
Touch
nature.
grass. Rohit,
Touch grass. Yeah, touch grass. But you still, like, you know, my mom didn't know how to work a DVD player or something like
Yeah.
that. So it's like, I don't want to be that person.
Right, and that's the way I was always I was fortunate that like my mom and my grandma and stuff like that. Like, I mean, you can take this, and they're not the worst kind of people; they're the best kind of people. But you know, my grandma I think had a Facebook or a cell phone before my mom did. You know what I mean? And like,
Right.
she's fucking 80 something nearly at this point.
Right.
So, or maybe no, just over 80. Yeah, just over 80. So, you know, like, yeah, you don't want to be that person either. You know, there's a
Right.
degree of things where you got to be able to say and look back and reminisce and nostalgia. And I'm a nostalgia bug. Like,
Same.
There's things about some nostalgia I don't care about, but like I like living in it. I think,
Yeah.
and that's just kind of me because it's my happy place.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
So for me, like, and that's why I like things like, you know, I have a PS5. I love new games and stuff like that. But like my happy place will always be on a Super Nintendo. You know what I mean?
like, and it's and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
And I was saying earlier, like, I found this channel on YouTube that has old 80s cartoons, but it has commercials to go with it. Like, it's like someone that just recorded it off of whatever,
Yeah.
and the commercials are with it. And I watch these commercials, and I'm like, oh, makes you feel good because it hits that nostalgia. Showbiz Pizza used to be Chuck E. Cheese, but it's like Showbiz
Vice
Pizza.
versa.
You can act like a kid.
Chuck E. Cheese used to be Showbiz. Showbiz was the OG.
Yeah, Showbiz. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's like, was it Showbiz Pizza? You can act like a kid. You can wiggle. You can flip.
Oh my God, you
did.
know-
Or no.
oh my
you can
God,
have
I
more
kinda do
fun than
remember
you
that.
Ever did.
Yeah,
You can
what the
wiggle. You
fuck?
can wiggle. You can giggle. You can flip your lid. Showbiz Pizza, where a kid can be a kid. Exactly. But they used to have the Rock-afire. They used to
Fuck.
have these huge animatronic,
Dude,
scary, deep, like Five Nights at Freddy's, but not as scary.
Willy Wonderland.
Yeah. But they have like this giant gorilla. Hey, it's the birthday. You know what I mean? But it was like back then, you're like, hey, anyone young right now is probably like, what the hell are you guys talking about? But it's like, that's what it reminds
funny.
you of. But it was like, that was the place to be, the ball pit,
Well, it said in the song.
basketball hoop. Yeah, it is. But
Playing the
yeah, the gopher one. Dude,
that's the best.
jeez. But now you go to like Chuck E. Cheese and someone's getting stabbed or something.
right.
Like,
You
it's not as fun.
You get your pizza. There's like a razor blade in it or something. But yeah.
But like when I saw that, and even like the old HBO, HBO used to have this badass fucking
Softcore porn
intro.
stuff?
No, like
Oh,
yeah.
my bad.
Oh God, no, that's when I would try to
bad. Skinemax.
have the
Remember
channel,
Skinemax? Yeah,
but the
yeah.
channel would be blurry.
Yeah, yeah.
I can hear him.
Yeah.
I think he's touching a boob right now. I'm like, oh, that's hot. You know what I mean? As a kid.
my sock up.
Yeah. Don't come in here. And it's she's moaning, so they're definitely doing it. Yeah, but and people have no idea what I'm talking about if you're not this age. But you used to have to try, like on pay-per-views, we would listen to the pay-per-views. Like we couldn't afford the pay-per-view, so we'd go to the channel, and I could hear like everything that's going on because
The
Gorilla and
matches.
Jesse would be. You know,
just watch our mouth monster.
Yeah. When I was in the Baja.
I'm looking like a sexual
Exactly. I can't believe it, Jesse. But we would listen to it, you know, because we were poor. But yeah, it was just when I see stuff like that, it instantly, and you guys will see it when you're older and Miley Cyrus was like 70, and then you're like, oh my gosh, she's doing Wrecking Ball. You know what I mean? And she's
Right.
just like, you know, or whatever. But it hits you. Those nostalgic feels hit you, man.
Yeah, and you get stuck in them, and
Yeah.
that is, and I know you're the same way. Like we're definitely. I feel like our generation is definitely like that. We're
Yeah.
definitely open to a lot of new things.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because technology has been, I think, evolved faster at a different pace than anything else before, and
Yeah.
so we have to keep up with the times. But we really cherish our childhood because we
Yeah.
weren't going outside playing, you know, kick the can or anything like that. It was enjoying good cartoons, eating cereal, playing video games, and having a blast. So
But that's why it's really cool, I think, like when I see shows now like Fallout, House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, just stuff like that we'd imagine back in the day, but now we kind of get it. And it's just like, man, that's so cool. Like even some of the Star Wars shows that were like really good, like you're like, oh man, that's really cool. Luke Skywalker shows up at the end of the season of Mando 2, and people lose their mind.
Yeah.
Even if it is like the crappy,
Jesus.
like, but I'll never forget.
I still get goosebumps watching that.
Goosebumps
every
watching.
time.
I'll never forget. I stayed up till 3 a.m. I'm pretty sure I had to work the next day. I had no heat in my house because my furnace broke.
No heat, row heat.
No heat, row heat. But I remember that we were in our group chat and that happened, and I'm like screaming. I'm like, oh my God. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning. And it was just, but as a kid, that's what you were waiting for.
Yeah.
You were waiting for like to see Luke Skywalker come back, and you know what I mean. It's just that same thing. It's like we get to live that out that we didn't get before. So it's cool.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And sticking kind of with the theme of like, a lot of the stuff we've been talking about, and I'm going to preface this by saying, in the near future, I've said it once or twice already, I'm going to have you back down for some deep dive conversations.
Yeah.
But I want just point blank, if you had to choose, I'll name 2, and if there's a third one you want to throw in there you think is worse, but what right now currently in the state of fandoms is the most toxic? Is it wrestling or Star Wars? I have an answer, but I think it also can ebb and flow back and forth. If there's another one out there you want to throw out there, I don't know if Lord of the Rings is that bad. I'm sure there's one I'm missing out there, but to me, those are the 2 that piss me off the most, and there's one I feel like is the worst.
I don't know if you want to call it a fandom, but politics. I think politics right now is really bad, but I won't call it a fandom because that's more of a stance on things,
everything.
But
how that translates into fandoms is pretty simple. Well, unfortunately, what's happened with politics is it's turned into a cult of personality.
I think everything's like a sports team,
and it shouldn't be,
right?
Because it's supposed to be. Politics should not be like the politics should be boring as fuck.
Yeah.
And it should be working for the people, everybody, and doing the right thing.
Yeah.
It should be boring. We shouldn't be waiting for clicks and news cycles to get us excited and worked up over dumb shit that doesn't matter, because I want to know, well, how's this legislation going? What's this going? Like, that should be the boring stuff. It should be working for everybody. But how I feel that does translate, and why it's the same, and to make my point, is that everything now for the last 15 years has become a line. You can't. There's no middle ground.
Yep.
It's like either you're this side fully or you're this side fully. Some of us, and I'm one of those people.
I'm in the middle.
I stick a lot of times in the middle about a lot of things. Now there are certain things, and we don't get too deep into the politics, but I'm definitely a certain way about certain things.
Yeah.
But I try to be objective, but I'm pretty much. This is why I'm the way I am.
Right.
And this is why I kind of always be. Now that being said, when it comes to the fandoms, it's like it goes back to the wrestling thing that we said earlier when people weren't checking out TNA or Impact or whatever, and even just not maybe favoring one, and like, because now it's like if you like something you can't like something else. Same way that's what's been going on with Star Wars recently as well too, and it's definitely amped because of Disney, and that's a whole other topic as well too. But if you had to point blank think about which of the 2 you think is the worst right now,
I'd say wrestling, because wrestling is consistent.
Mm-hmm.
There's no off days for wrestling. There's always going to be something on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You know what I mean? Wrestling, there's no off season. Where Star Wars is, here's a new show. It gets talked about. It dies down. Maybe they'll talk about something else when something else gets announced. But there's an ebb and flow.
Yeah.
So the Star Wars, it's a roller coaster where people are talking about it, but they're not always talking about it. Where wrestling, they're always talking about it because it's every week.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I think they're very similar because, like you said, it's like either this side or that side, where I try to go in the middle, and I always and it's funny because I also think a lot of, like when we talked the other day, I think things are generational. You have like people have like TikTok brain and TikTok attention span, and you made the really good example of Godzilla -1. And people that like that compared to people that like Godzilla versus Kong, they're 2 different things. One's a spectacle, one's substance. And when I argue with my friends, my younger friends about Star Wars,
I enjoy them.
I watch Star Wars the same way I watch wrestling. I pick wrestling apart because I love wrestling. So my big thing, so like I can watch a wrestling match, and I've been in many of them to where it's just spot, 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 spot after spot. There's really no substance. It's like a car crash. It's just this happens, this happens, this happens, and it's still good, but there's no story. Look at Roman Reigns' the whole bloodline story and the Cody story. Look how long that took, even when The Rock came in. Look at the build-up for that. The match wasn't the greatest thing ever, but it was the spectacle and the substance mixed together, and it made a perfect mix. I think the prequels, because this generation that's like usually 30 or 35 or younger, they're prequel fans, so that's like the greatest.
Maybe even younger. It might even be a little bit younger.
Yeah, it might even be younger than that, but that's like the greatest Star Wars now. If you were to watch the prequels, if you grew up like we did, there's substance with the OT. There's something very special about it, and there's meat in that stew, whereas there's not a lot of meat in the prequels. It's more of a spectacle. Like the fight, Phantom Menace, the best thing about Phantom Menace, 9 times out of 10 people are going to say, oh, the end fight. And so I think there's that sides of fandom, and it could be when they grew up.
Sure.
So everyone's going to say, well, Roman Reigns sucks because he's not as good as Will Ospreay. I can guarantee you Will Ospreay and Roman Reigns probably respect each other and like each other's work. And
it's all about the hustle.
And they also think they're both good in their own fields.
Right. Correct.
Whereas the fans sit here and try to kill each other over that. But I also think it's because I used to be like that with wrestling. Oh God, look at these guys. These guys suck. They don't wrestle like Low-Ki. They don't wrestle like AJ Styles. These guys aren't real wrestlers. And then I'm like, well, shit. When I got into wrestling, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. We still talk about Steve Austin. We still talk about Ric Flair.
Right.
We still talk about the guys that were building the story, cutting the promo, and making memories, but also putting on good matches. They may not have been doing a bunch of cool moves, but the memory and the moment they created is still talked about.
Right.
And so I think there is something that's objectively good as far as, and this is why it's objectively good. And I think it's okay to enjoy something, but you have to realize something. Like, I love Kung Fu movies, but I would never argue with you that they're great movies.
Sure.
It's a spectacle.
Yeah.
There's no meat in that stew. And I think people get wrapped up in like, I like this,
It is
therefore
exactly it there.
it's right. And they
Yes.
don't look at things. They don't step outside the box and look at it.
Yes.
I try to give everything a chance. Like, I gave the Acolyte a chance. I wasn't stoked about it. I even went in with low expectations. I wasn't like what I was hearing, but when I watched a couple reviews and they're like, oh, it's not bad, it's this. I'm like, okay, I can get behind that. Let me give it a chance. And I went in there with an open mind and I watched the whole thing. Same thing with Rings of Power. I didn't like it. And some things did blow away my expectations and were way better than I thought. But as an overall thing, I ended up hating it for these reasons.
Right.
And then when you try and tell someone that, and you're trying to say, hey, this is a foundational thing, and this is why it was bad writing, and this is why it was this, they don't want to hear that because they like it.
Right.
And it's like, we don't look at, like you said, when it's right in the middle, people don't try to look at both sides of it. They just look at their side.
It's like I always say, and I say this a lot on B&B proper as well, too.
There's a lot of word sounds over that made sense.
We'll get some, like, Catalina on that, too. But the problem just stems from two things. Now, first of all, I want to say, as far as the wrestling thing, I totally agree.
Yeah.
And this is coming from somebody who just started watching WWE in the last year because Triple H took over.
Yep.
It's a better product. I didn't watch it for years. I enjoy it again. You can see that they're building stuff. It's getting back to a former glory. I also love AEW. I love both for certain reasons. I love AEW because I really love the wrestling. And there's a lot of people over there I like to see wrestle.
Right.
The storylines aren't so great.
Right.
And that's fine. And there's other things I can pro and con. I go to WWE. I love the storylines. The wrestling's kind of subpar to me. And that's fine because it works because they're telling a story a different way.
Yeah.
I like TNA Impact because it's a mix of everything.
Yep.
I love New Japan Wrestling because it's its own thing, baby. And I love that too.
Yeah.
That drool everywhere. And you know, what else? Sometimes even a little bit of NWA. My point is that I have left so many wrestling groups and different things and muted them because goes back to what I was saying. Now everything is, if you like something, that's it. You can't critique it.
Nope.
You can't criticize it.
Nope.
Or anything. And it's the same way how it translates to Star Wars.
Oh God, especially right now.
Right, it's awful. Like you can't say you don't like something because of this way, and then everybody, you know, there's people that's die on the hill like it is a certain way, opposite your way or whatever. And it's like no, you should be able to, and this is where my full point on how I talk about B&B proper all the time. If you can't criticize or critique the things you like, I don't want to hear about the things you don't like and why you don't like them, because you have that's the first step in being open-minded. And that's the way how we are currently in the climate of everything in this world. It's a line in the sand. If you like it, if you don't like it, that's it. And I'm like, bro, like I can like all wrestling I just want to I love wrestling. I want to intake all the wrestling I can.
Right.
You know what I mean? I like Star Wars. I want to intake it all as I can, but guess what? It doesn't mean it's always going to be good, and I'm going to tell you if it's not.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I know, again, and this is a slippery subject with us because we talk about this a lot, and I know we want to dive deep into this soon. So I just wanted to point blank kind of get your thoughts if you agreed that, and that's where I was hoping was that you thought too, that I feel like wrestling fandom is the more toxic because you're not allowed to enjoy all of them 90% of the time, and it's very annoying, and I think it's stupid.
I think it's crazy, and wrestling fans are the biggest hypocrites because when Cody Rhodes was in AEW, there were so many people crapping on him
all the time.
that were WWE fans. Oh,
and even
Cody
AEW
sucks.
people.
That's why he's in AEW.
They want him to go heel all the time.
Yeah. But then as soon as he went to WWE, it was like the second coming, and everyone's like, "Oh man, he's so cool." It's like, yeah, you were just same thing.
Same
like
with Toxic Phil. Same thing with Toxic Phil.
Yeah, and it's the same thing that I talked about, like with LA Knight, and then Ethan Page going there, and people that used to crap on it, and like people that used to crap on TNA. Jordan Grace got one of the biggest pops when she went in the Rumble.
That was huge.
You know what I mean? But it's like they're just so weird, and it's the same thing. Like I would text you the other day. I was like, I want to talk Star Wars. Carm and I had a conversation. Like we didn't agree on the Acolyte, right? But I get why he liked it. And I understood, Darth Plagueis, that was cool to him. It wasn't to me, and this is why I didn't like it. And I think he understood why I didn't like it, but I understand why he likes it. And we just don't, we'll agree to disagree on it. I don't like it. So when they have conversations in the group chat, I don't join in because I hated that show, and I don't want to take away from their conversation. And I'm sure, I would hope they would understand why I don't like it. Maybe they won't, because maybe they won't think the writing's bad or whatever. And that's on them. We just won't have that conversation. But, I see it online. You sent me that thing about Screen Rant, and they were pointing out just legit facts, and the comments were like,
that was what I wanted to highlight.
They were just defenders.
It was a minefield. It was a minefield.
And I scolded everyone, and no one I was like, what is wrong with you guys?
Yeah.
Like, it's not above criticism, and when you have
That's
legit critiques,
that's the problem.
Critics being like, yeah, this isn't good.
Yeah,
and they're just like la 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 la, everything's fine. It's like, man, you can enjoy it. No one's telling you can't. But like, do you realize? We want, and as we view Star Wars differently. You may view it for the spectacle, the Fast and the Furious mindset, where I view it for the Godzilla -1 mindset. And that's the difference. Y'all want Kong and Godzilla. I want Godzilla -1.
Yeah.
Because that's what I view Star Wars as a top tier franchise. And right now, it's the lowest out of everything. Like Harry Potter, once that new series comes out, you know what I mean? If it's good, Star Wars is at the bottom again. My biggest problem with that is that Lucasfilm caters to these fans. They stay in that echo chamber. So any criticism that they take, they ignore, whether it's the right criticism or people actually hating on it.
And it's pushback.
We need those fans that love it so much to realize, like, hey, this isn't good. We should probably do something better. Maybe this was cool and this was cool, but they need to speak up as well, because if not, we're going to get the same thing until nobody cares about it.
It's just fine to enjoy things, but you have to be able to admit that things could be better. Complacency just breeds more complacency.
Exactly.
And just mediocrity. So no. But I want to move on past that because, like I said, we do this a lot. So I'll fire a quick question for you. It's kind of a two-parter. First one: top 3 Arnold films.
One of my favorite movies, I think it is my favorite movie of all time, is Conan the Barbarian.
Figured.
Next would be Predator. And then after that, Terminator 1 or 2.
Okay.
It depends on how I feel because I love both Terminators.
Right.
But I think Terminator 1 might be my favorite.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Just because it's darker, gritty, almost more of a horror movie. But I love how big Terminator
Yeah.
2 was. But those would be my top 3, maybe 4 if you want to count both those
Yeah, that's fair.
Terminators.
That's
but
fair.
yeah.
Okay, so here's the next one that goes with that. Is there a greater action actor than him, or is he legitimately the king to you? Is there anybody that can really challenge that throne legitimately? We can even consider like more recent times. You can
Tom
think about
Cruise, maybe? I don't know.
That's possible, I
But
suppose.
I don't know if Tom Cruise's action movies, besides Mission Impossible, because there was a while there where Arnold would put out anything, and it was gonna make over whatever. It was gonna kill. The Rock was like that for a hot second, but I think people are smarter nowadays to where you can't get away. Like if Arnold came out today, and he was putting out some of those movies, like some of his first action movies were tremendous, and then once he started to rely heavy on the one-liners and stuff like that, and more of like the really comedy stuff, it started to go off the rails, and it was like a
Because you're a huge fan of Jingle All the Way, right?
I actually do like Jingle All the Way.
That's great.
Put the cookie down.
Put the
yeah.
Put the cookie down.
It's not the toy, or no, it's Turbo Man. But yeah, like no, yeah, is that Jingle All the Way? Turbo Man?
Yeah, I think it's Turbo Man, right?
Yeah.
Yep. We got a thumbs up out there in the studio audience.
But yeah, I love Arnold. One of my things about Arnold that I love so much is he came from nothing,
Right.
and made his work ethic is unreal. So I'll sometimes when I'm in the gym, I'll just listen to his motivational speeches with music put over it, and if I'm feeling whatever, I'll just watch him work out, and I'm like, all right, let's go, because
Just watch Pumping Iron over and over and over.
I love Pumping Iron.
great
you know what I
film.
mean? All the wrong advices, the best advices. But I love Arnold, man. He's I don't know. In my eyes, no. But I'm sure if you were to put numbers up, probably there's probably somebody out there.
Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, it's just, he's too iconic for me, and I get hooked in that nostalgia, and like I'll get tunnel vision on things like that, and like I love Tom Cruise. Actually, I actually like a lot of his films, but I'm just an Arnold guy.
I am too. Tom Cruise makes good quality films. Arnold at that time, and even probably to this day, he's just larger than life. He has that charisma.
Yeah, he just
just like. I love Sly, but Sly didn't have the same charisma as sometimes kills is breathing.
Yeah.
Nothing is over. Nothing. But yeah. But Arnold is just, dude. The first Predator. God, man, I don't think anything will touch that.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. Well, you love AVP, right?
God, those are terrible. I hope Romulus is good. Fingers crossed.
I'm telling you, I got
trailers.
Did you see the last Evil Dead? Did you see like Evil Dead Rises?
I was hit or miss on that. I liked how crazy it was.
Because like I'm a super fan.
The story, I don't know. I just didn't.
Thumbs up out there in the audience.
I don't know. It wasn't bad, but I wouldn't watch it again.
That's fair, man. That's crazy. Yeah, you're in minority actually on that one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I am.
Yeah,
it just didn't hit me like that. I'm sorry, man. My favorite, I guess you want to count it, Evil Dead movies, Army of Darkness.
No, you're fine. No, I'm the same way.
I love the fucking skeletons.
The tongue in cheek. No, Army of Darkness is
get the fuck out of my face,
dude. Like,
it's great.
Bruce Campbell is like. So if we talk Arnold as the king, Bruce Campbell is in a whole other pantheon of like.
Come get some.
Just exactly.
God, dude, he's so.
Look at you, Mr. Fancy Pants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't a bad movie. It just, and I'm not saying it was shitty. It didn't hit me like that. But I do hope Alien Romulus does, because that trailer, it hits all the notes. But it's a trailer, so you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, from my perspective, as somebody who did like The Evil Dead Rise, this guy, because Sam Raimi was really into what he did.
Yeah.
If he can revitalize something like that, and it clearly he's trying to bring the horror back into it, and that's why there's a lot of like the face huggers into it, and that stuff is good to lean into as a start too. So I thought it's an effective trailer. So we've got August 16th to find out, and I'm just gonna go. I usually watch the Alien movies yearly. I don't think I've done it this year, so I'm gonna have to do it before then. But no, it's one of my all-time favorite franchises. So I'm pretty stoked. You saw that thing I sent you on Twitter today, right?
Yes.
Dude, that was gnarly, right? Just all
Wait.
that behind. It was a thing that was on Twitter, like 50 pages of like facts from aliens.
Yeah.
That was,
wasn't
Dude,
that sweet? Yes, I
Dude,
love that one.
that sort
That
of
page
shit.
is like really one of my favorite pages.
It's a great
Lupe
page.
Prime. He hooked me up on that, and I started following them. I just love that stuff.
Prime Ding Dong.
Prime Ding Dong, that wiener.
Yeah, wiener.
I'm excited for Deadpool. That new trailer. Did you see the newest trailer?
Yeah, I've got gripes.
Really? What's the gripes?
They're simple. They're showing too much. They could have.
Oh,
They could have held
dang.
one of the two.
The Daphne Keene thing. I don't think they should have showed that.
No, they shouldn't have.
No.
She has been doing nothing but like up and down mind games to work through this to keep it a secret.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't need to show up because
If
people
Andrew
are going to show
Garfield
up.
can do it,
Yeah.
Like I don't know why. I don't know what they were thinking. Me and Dude talked about this today too, and Prime. I don't know what they were thinking releasing that.
Yeah,
Like,
you
that's
didn't
not
need
gonna,
to.
You didn't need to.
Yeah.
Like, can you keep some close to the chest? You know, the only thing I will say though, I know because since they showed, and if you fast forward, if you haven't seen the trailer yet, they showed, you know, we saw Lady Deadpool in one of the last trailers from the waist down.
Yep.
My only hope is I want Blake Lively to play that character.
It's probably Ryan Reynolds.
That would be funny. Actually, that'd be really funny. But did you notice in the background behind who she's walking out? You can see all the shadows of Deadpool variants.
No, and I figured because they had Dogpool
Oh yeah,
in there, so
yeah.
I figured they were going to do that. And I actually, when I watch trailers like that, like any Marvel trailers,
Yeah.
I don't dissect them anymore because I like to go in.
Well, your expectations will change if you do that.
Yeah,
'Cause
so
you gotta be careful.
and I don't. I just watch it. And my Marvel threshold died in phase 4. You remember? I would be like, it's just not hitting for me.
Yeah,
and then,
yeah, because we
I
done
was
the movie.
saying I don't think I did that, but I was just like, this ain't hitting.
Yeah.
But
It was some of the phases recently have been tough.
yeah, I think
I understand. I'm one of the few that have found some joy.
I do think this will knock it out of the park, but I can't say Marvel's back until what follows it. Because if you follow it with like Agatha, it's just like,
Right.
And that might be great, but I have no interest in
Well, I was excited about that originally because I like Kathleen.
I like
Hahn.
that actress.
Yeah,
She
she's
is
great. But after watching the trailer, I was like, well, that was underwhelming as fuck for me.
Yeah. And if you put out more stuff that you've been putting out, like Ironheart, like I don't give a shit. And that's because they didn't make me give a shit.
Yeah,
about
exactly.
Ironheart.
Because they just out of nowhere threw in the middle of a fucking movie, which I know because they got a lot of characters they got to build somewhere.
Right.
But it wasn't impactful. In the
No,
first place, and
it
that's part
served
of the
no
problem.
purpose.
Yeah.
I will say though, the Cap trailer, that was cool
That looked really fucking good.
because it reminded me of Winter Soldier, and if they go in that same vein, ooh, boy.
I mean, hey, I loved Falcon and fucking. I loved that
did
series.
until the end. The end was so on the nose and ham-fisted. Like they tried to make the terrorists
dancing Nemo, the
happy,
Nemo.
like good. I like Nemo.
Yeah.
He better be back.
Yeah.
But and love U.S. Agent. Oh, that dude. I love that actor.
Yeah.
Kurt
Wyatt.
Russell's kid,
Wyatt Russell's
dude.
great.
Big fan of him.
yeah.
Loved him in. I never finished it, but I liked him in the
Monarch?
Godzilla one.
It's good. That was a good series, Monarch.
I didn't finish Monarch,
Shame
but
on
I
you.
liked it. I will. I'll go back and finish it. And I love Kurt Russell. Yeah, I love Kurt Russell.
yeah.
Kurt Russell's
He's
always been.
still one
He's
of
never
the
been one of
OGs.
my favorite actors, but he's always been someone. And now he is because in anything he's in, he's always good. Even
He's
if the movie
funny,
sucks, he's
charismatic,
good.
and he's a great actor.
And he can be serious. Bone Tomahawk,
Dude,
Jesus.
he's different than he doesn't get. I feel like
Tombstone.
he's underrated to the point where he doesn't get the appreciation he
He
deserves.
does not.
I definitely believe that. I
And
definitely
Big
believe
Trouble
that.
Little China. Like you can list a bunch of stuff, and I know a lot of people didn't like Guardians 2, but man, I loved him in Guardians. I loved Guardians 2.
I did
I
too.
loved Guardians 2. But I understand why people didn't like it, but man, especially when they hit you with the fathers and sons at the end. God, come on.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
Mary Poppins, yo.
Yeah.
All right, so one thing I've always found interesting about you is you're actually a pretty big music fan, and when it comes to music, you actually have a pretty diverse taste as well.
Yes.
What band or even a genre do you enjoy that people always find is surprising?
Musical scores.
Okay.
I still have the original Star Wars soundtrack. It's 6 discs. John Williams. John Williams is one of my favorite composers. I want to go to one of those things where they show the movie and you watch the. I want to go to that so bad. I would love Hans Zimmer. Last Samurai soundtrack is amazing.
Yeah.
Love the Harry Potter soundtrack. Just right when it starts, man. It sucks you right in. It's so good. I love the Inception soundtrack. Basil Paldoris, the original Conan the Barbarian soundtrack. My God, Anvil of Crom. Boom, 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 boom,
pretty fucking dope.
Like, and then, dude, it's just, it's that, and it's funny because now that movie gets a lot of recognition, and everyone always says it's actually not just a corny '80s sword and sandal flick. It's like a really good movie, and then that soundtrack just makes it. Howard Shore, another one of my favorite composers. There's a lot of video game Red Dead, man. I can just listen to the Red Dead stuff. I love lo-fi stuff now. Love
really
that.
okay.
I love lo-fi.
Okay.
A lot of times I'll just, if I want to fall asleep, I'll play some like the fall asleep lo-fi.
Anime lo-fi yet? Have you gotten some of those? There's a playlist on Spotify called Naruto like sleep music.
Really?
It's all Naruto songs and lo-fi.
Did you know that those guys that did the Naruto soundtrack did Taka Michinoku's original theme?
No.
Listen to it one of these like when we're done here.
No shit.
And you'll right when you hear it, you're like, holy shit! It sounds like Naruto running through the village.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, we listen to it on road trips all the time. The song is a banger, dude.
Dang,
it's so good. Wrestling themes.
Yeah.
Jim Johnson is probably one of my favorite composers for wrestling themes. I like a lot of good metal, Pantera, a lot of old school metal like Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath.
That was the one that really surprised when you first years ago said we were talking music.
Megadeth.
Because I mean, Iron Maiden, a lot of people know, but like
Slayer.
A lot of people also don't usually bring up Iron Maiden. And I also love Iron Maiden as well too. So when you said Iron Maiden, I was
love Iron Maiden, dude.
I listen to Iron Maiden all the fucking time.
Same. Like Iron Maiden's always on my gym playlist. Sabbath, War Pigs is probably one of my favorite songs of all time. I can listen to that every day and never get tired of it. Jimi Hendrix, love Bob Marley, love Led Zeppelin, love The Doors, love Janis Joplin. Some of the Beatles stuff I really like. Love old school Willie Nelson, old school Waylon Jennings. Man,
that old like that 70s, 80s like kind of.
There's another country artist I can't think of his name. Wu-Tang Clan is my favorite. Love Nas. Love. Ooh. I'm a more lyricist. Yeah, Wu-Tang in the cup.
Shirt. I don't have the updated.
What? It's the after party. So bitches want to fuck. They want the titties suck. Ice cream. Still love Wu-Tang.
Speaking of which, before you got here, I wanted to play some music, and I was getting yelled at by the other two people in the home tonight. And I'm like, I just want to listen to Wu-Tang for a minute. Like, and Draston was like, I've never listened to a Wu-Tang song before. And then
it's different.
Oh, and then Britt's like, well, I like it. And I'm like, you guys are not saying this shit before.
Protect her neck.
Yeah, exactly. I'm usually telling her like, hey, they ain't nothing to fuck with.
Yeah.
I just wanted to listen to something because I listen to a lot of Wu-Tang as well too. But
yeah. Exactly. Yeah. You say number 4, the lizard. But no, I love Wu-Tang, love Nas, love older Jay-Z, Big L, Biggie. I like Tupac, but I'm more of a Biggie guy. I'm more of a hip hop guy.
Yeah, that's where we separate on that one because I'm more of a Tupac guy.
But I get it. But it's funny because like my friends, like when we travel, I play a lot of old hip hop. They're like, man, this stuff sucks, man. You like all the rhymes and stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's what hip hop is. But they like stuff like Drake, Future, which I respect that stuff. I don't mind Drake, but I know people don't like him. But I like.
I never have, and this Kendrick thing came up, and I'm like, somebody's fighting Drake.
Yeah, I've always liked.
I love Kendrick
more, but I like Drake for what he is. It's just that singy, songy, poppy stuff.
Yeah,
and I think that has. Yeah, and it has a spot, but it's not like what
an A minor.
Yeah, oh jeez. Mortal Technique.
I threw you under the bus, Britt. I got you.
A little bit of Metallica. But I mean, it's just a list of stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you're just one of those guys too that just I know is very diverse in the music. Let me ask this:
R&B, SWV. You know they're touring with like Total, and because I know you like the old school R&B.
Yeah, really.
SWV, Total, Escape. There's like a whole bunch of them are touring together.
Damn, that's crazy. Jesus.
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you what, if Keith Sweat was in that group, I'd be, or right now, if he was out touring too.
Nobody.
You know what I need. Nobody.
Prince. Oh, Prince, Michael Jackson.
Yeah,
Prince, like, unreal.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was two, like, that I grew up really heavily on. Was my mom was a huge Michael Jackson fan. I have the original Thriller vinyl in near mint condition.
Hell yeah,
dude!
I'm so mad I got rid of my
dude,
mom's records. That's a
man.
Kick
Oh
myself
yeah, I
for
know.
that.
I get it. Have you? And I post them a lot on social media. Have you given a listen to Coast Contra yet?
I know of Coast Contra, and I have heard some of their stuff, but I never gave a deep listen.
Holy
It's a whole
shit.
it's a whole crew, right?
These
Yeah,
guys
I've
are the epitome of a rebirth of hip hop.
Really?
They are incredible on every fucking level. You got to give Coast Contra some love. They are, dude, I'm telling you, like, when they finally blew up with that freestyle mix or whatever it was, and then I was so into this when they first popped like this. I was watching people that like to break down like bars and different things, and watching these videos, and people were going, what are these guys even saying and doing? Like, how are they, like, just the way they just do this? And
that's what I saw. I saw the freestyle.
Dude, and they've got so much other shit that's just as good as well too. But you can tell that they were inspired by like that old school '90s like hip hop.
That's my favorite.
I mean,
send that to me in Signal because I'll forget.
Yeah, I got to, man, because I've been listening to them again this week, and I'm like, God damn it! Like, I wish more people just knew. And they're starting to get there. They've been featured on. Jesus, I'm gonna eat my mic. They've been featured on a couple of like guest stuff as well too. So I mean, they're getting there.
Good for them.
Yeah, I definitely recommend that. So, kind of switch gears again as always. Random question as well. What is it about silk boxers that make you hesitant to wear them alone? To the point where you may even have to double up on undies just to wear a pair of silk boxers.
Well,
what is that about?
I used to like wearing silk boxers because I used to let it hang and not have the tighty whities.
Right.
But when I would wear them, I mean, it would rub up against my junk, so I'd get a hard on, so I couldn't wear silk boxers. And I'm like ready to go 24/7, so that's not a good thing.
He's already fully torqued. You didn't need a silk box.
I'm 40% right now.
Well, that's it for the night, everybody. Thanks for popping in.
Yeah, but no, I couldn't wear them, so I would wear underwear, and that was really weird. I had this weird thing with like certain material of pants, and they would itch, so that's why I went to boxers, so they wouldn't itch my thighs. And so I would want to wear the silk boxers because they weren't as hot, but then I would have to wear like a tighty whitey underneath it.
Then you're rubbing your tip.
Yeah, pretty much. That is as dumb and funny as that sounds. That would happen. My shit would be dangling, it'd be rubbing up against it, and I'd get a hard on. It's like, I can't wear these out in public. And I'll sleep in them now and stuff like that, and it'll do the same goddamn thing. But that's so funny. The silk boxers. That's been a joke forever. One of the funniest jokes, and I'll let you in on a secret. So underneath my wrestling trunks, I wear thongs, right? And
that's what you showed up in, but yeah, go on.
Pretty much. But I grill in my banana hammock.
I know, we've seen the fucking video.
There's a picture of me with a cowboy hat on and shades, and I'm outside because it was fucking hot. And plus, if you're wrestling, I wrestle in trunks. I don't want the tan line, so I will be outside in speedos flipping burgers. I did it this year, and but when I wrestle, I get the Ahmed Johnson butt, so my trunks will go up my butt, but then my underwear underneath would show, and that's very unprofessional. You don't want that. So I'm like, man, what do I do? My buddies wear thongs. I'm like, I'm not wearing a thong. He's like, dude, you know how many people wear thongs? I'm like, who? Edge, Scott Steiner. I'm like, oh my God, you're right, because I remember them getting pantsed.
Yeah.
And they had thongs on, so I bought man thongs, and so now I wear those underneath. And I'm not gonna lie, at first I was like, this is very uncomfortable. They're super comfortable now.
Yeah, see.
But there's no way I could wear that by itself because my shit would just fall.
Or with
out.
silk boxers, or maybe with silk boxers.
But it's hilarious. Yeah. But it's funny because in wrestling, people like to buy your gear, and you know, to each their own, whatever. I don't care what you do with it. But I'll tell them, they'll ask, well, what do you wear underneath? And I'll say thongs, and they're like, oh my God. And I'm like, $100.
Yeah, right.
$100. I mean,
Fucking-
that's been in my butt, bro. So you're gonna have to, you gotta
fucking-
pay up for that. That's a piece of meat, literally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you got to pay for that, homie.
Jesus
There's a
Christ.
market for that stuff.
There
Another
really is.
podcast we can go over, the underworld of pro wrestling, which is pretty awesome and hilarious.
Everybody wearing silk boxers.
No, yeah, but I think it's hilarious. Follow Jordan Grace sometimes because I don't think she does anymore, but she used to post DMs.
The DMs. Oh yeah, that was really good.
People would say like, "Man, I want you to fart in my mouth," like,
Yeah.
oh my god! But then their profile picture would be them and their wife, and I'm like, what an idiot!
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So, but it's funny, man. It's pro wrestling's wild, man.
Yeah.
When it comes to people wanting to buy your stuff, and you know, it's hilarious to me. I don't kink shame, so whatever floats your boat, go ahead, guys.
Right.
And it's mostly guys. I'm pretty sure.
And if he was on your boat, he probably gonna fall into the water anyways. So.
Yeah, if you got me in a fifth of Soko,
Yeah, there you
definitely
go.
falling in, singing wrestling theme songs and not remember any of it, and then puking at the end of the night.
That's sounds about right. Sounds about right. So, let's talk about this for a moment. And some people may know this as well too, but your sister is what she does
like
is
Jane-
the work of a saint.
Jane Goodall.
She's
man.
damn well she's Jane Goodall. She does fur baby animal rescue and finds homes,
Yes.
nurses things to health. I mean, you find it, she's gonna, and it's got a problem, she's gonna bring it back to something. You're also a huge animal lover.
Hell yeah.
And we've had numerous conversations about how our fur babies are sometimes more important to the people,
Yes.
even in maybe our families sometimes. But was that something that you both shared, or did you inherit from your mom, or did you guys just both grow up that, or like how did that dynamic, or how did that end up being so important to you in your life like that?
When I was a kid, the first thing I remember is I love animals. I had my cat. He was a black cat. His name was Putty. Broke my heart
Like
when he died.
I put that.
Pretty much. And I don't even know why I called him Putty, because I think it was supposed to be Pudding at first, but I just called him Putty.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember his name. I call him Pooh. I don't remember. But he lived until he was 18.
Shit.
And
Crazy for a cat.
broke my
Amazing
heart
cats do that.
because he had kidney failure. But he would want attention. And he would sleep with me. He'd sleep right above my head. He'd lick my head. He'd open my door.
You had MySpace pictures of.
Probably.
Yeah.
And then,
think
but he was
some of it.
my first cat. My dog Mitzi was like one of those little poodles, and broke my heart because she got out, and I drove around looking for her. She was lost for days, and I found her there. She was hit by a car, and her fucking guts were everywhere. But I love my animals. Absolutely love them. I have a baby kitten right now. I bottle feed it, help it go to the bathroom. It's probably like 3 weeks old. It comes second nature to us. It just was always something. If my sister wasn't bringing something home, I was bringing something home. We've had squirrels, raccoons, snakes. She has squirrels, raccoons,
I know.
snakes. She's held foxes.
I love watching her face. I see it every day.
Yes.
The foxes and I love foxes. Like raccoons are like one
Cat
of my
dogs,
favorite
man.
animals. Yeah, man.
Yeah, the hands on a raccoon,
Dude.
The little bottlenose. I love them.
I had a raccoon. We nursed a raccoon back to health when I was a kid.
Dude,
and
so
it was
cool.
one of the best pets I ever had.
Yes, man.
It was they were such because she was a baby, she was orphaned, and she was, I mean, they're really like a cat.
Yeah.
Like it was an amazing pet to have.
They
I mean,
are,
it's really
man.
not a pet, but you know what I mean.
When we had that bad, remember the dams broke?
Yeah.
And so we had like the floods and stuff that were going on. And I'm texting her, hey, where you at? Our houses are in the flood zone. She's like, I'm on a boat right now rescuing these deer. I'm like, what? I'm like, get home. She's like, no, I have to rescue these deer. I'm like, you are insane.
Yeah.
So I go to her house one day and there's this little doe. And she's like, yeah, you can get in there with it. And I went in the pen and I just laid with it. And it was the coolest thing. And then when she took it to the reserve, I'm holding it like this. She's like, hold it tight because even though it's small, it'll kick the hell out of you. And it's like bleating, like blah, blah, back there. And I'm just like talking to it, petting it. And she's like, yeah, just talk to it like you would a baby and stuff like that. And just calm it down. And I'm holding it. And we get there. And I hand it to the lady at the deer preserve. And that thing went from uptight to relaxed. I'm like, what kind of wizardry is this? What kind of sorcery is this? Must have smelled all the deer on her. Felt right at home.
Yeah.
But just doing stuff like that. When I used to work at Magoo's, when I was wrestling full time, I just needed something part time. It was my favorite job.
Yeah.
I wasn't in charge of anything. I was just helping people. I got to see dogs every day.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would take
That's
care
right up
of
your alley.
animals. I was taking care of rabbits, guinea pigs, ferrets. Love the ferrets.
Ferrets are
I used
so
to take
fun.
them out, hold the ferrets, walk around the store with them
Yeah.
while I did my
They're
chores.
wild, man. I love them.
The veiled chameleons, I used to take them out and let them walk up my arm, and I'd hand feed them. The bearded dragons, Uromastics, snakes. I'd be giving snakes a bath.
How does
and
a mad dragon take care of a bearded dragon?
Dude, if you want a lizard, the most docile lizard, like cool
They say
lizard,
it's bearded, right?
dragons,
Yeah.
they're like dogs. I used to have them. They pancake on you, like their bellies will go flat, and I'm just holding it. It's on my shoulder. I'm having the tweezers feeding it crickets. I love that job. If I could do something like that, if I ever won the lotto or made it big or whatever, I would have a farm. I would hire
Sanctuary
people,
or something.
sanctuary,
Yeah, man.
and I would just rescue dogs. Like, man, when I come home 3, 4 in the morning after being on the road, Koba comes out, greets me. He's so happy to see me, unconditional love. And then I'll lay on the couch. He's right there with me, falling asleep. Or Daisy will come out. My cat Mako will be there. Animals, man, like when they pass, it's like
fucking
it's
awful.
I'll cry tears like
yeah.
a baby, man. Like when Cyrus passed, he had liver issues. I had to stay in there for 3 dogs to get put down. Literally, Cyrus passed, and then a month later, Brutus passed. I just took him in to get checked out because he wasn't eating. I'm like, oh, maybe because Cyrus died? No, he had a tumor that burst in his stomach. And so, and he had like bad spinal issues. And so I had to get him put down there. Broke my heart because that was my baby. And then Ollie passed, and Ollie had kidney failure.
Yeah.
And it just kills you. And I'm there for their last breath. And just like, and I know some people don't like animals, like, and that's fine. I get it. But I guarantee you there's an animal out there that you will get attached to, whether it's a cat, whether it's a dog. My brother-in-law hated dogs, but when he was with these small dogs, these Pomeranians,
Yeah, she mentioned he's into littles now, right?
he got so attached.
Yeah.
He cried when they had to put the one down.
I love. I'm the same way. I love littles, man.
I just
don't
love
know
animals.
I
Like
don't know.
I never was a
what
big
it
fan of yappy dogs, but I just love animals, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know,
I can't get. I wish I want to see an elephant. I want to be with the elephant. I want to talk to, like, see the gorillas and stuff. So I always watch like videos of people having cool encounters. Don't want to see any bears. Don't want to go to Australia because everything over there is prehistoric.
kill
but
you,
yeah, like the
eat you.
spiders are like this big, and I'm like,
they use you as a
why
mount.
is
I
that a
know.
thing, man?
I know, I
Everything
know.
it's like
I know.
Kong Skull Island.
Yeah,
Or not
just in
Skull
Australia.
Island, but the King Kong by Peter Jackson. When they went to that, and the bugs were. I'm like, that's just
that's
Australia.
exactly
That's what that is.
all Australia.
Yeah.
I-
That's not big. That's not large. See my ass, bro. My ass made. That thing's huge. Killer toads and like spiders that
Nah,
one bite they'll
I'm
kill
good.
you.
Yep, no, I'm good on that.
I'm good.
Like was it the parachute or the balloon spiders or whatever the fuck they are?
Yes, and they come from and like they showed this thing like
What
these
is
things
that?
falling out of the sky, and people were like, "Oh, what is that? Is that alien?" This guy's like, "No, it's these spiders that the wind." They're like they blow out these sacks and the wind carries them.
Yeah.
And then afterwards they fall. So like hundreds of spiders fall from the sky.
Well,
That sounds like hell to me.
if you recall-
where does that happen? Australia. Like, get the hell out of here.
If you recall at the end of
Hard
Charlotte's
pass.
Web, the book itself, some of her
Yeah.
children decided they wanted to be like astronauts, basically. And,
Yeah.
they took off and did that. I'm just saying. Just wanted to throw out there a
Hard
little Charlotte's Web out there for all you Charlotte's Web fans.
Hard pass.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I love watching your sister's Facebook because, it makes me, I'm a same way. We're like,
she's awesome.
we're blubbering fools for babies around here as well too. So
Yeah, I took the baby cat over there. She looked at it for 5 minutes, diagnosed it, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, no, that's what it is. And this, is he doing this? Is he doing that? Is he pooping? Oh, it's a boy. Blah blah blah. Blah. I'm like, man, but she just,
she just knows,
but she's always been from as long as I can remember. She was bringing home something nursing it back to health,
Yeah.
helping it out, setting it free.
Yeah.
She's been like that since day one.
Damn.
Animals, that's her thing.
That's awesome. And honestly, the reason I clip my cat's nails myself now is because of her.
Yeah.
4 years ago when we lost all of our 3 animals in a row during COVID, and then she rescued Miles, and we took
Yep.
Miles.
Wow, so cool.
Yeah,
Such a good
little
dog.
cute dog. And he's doing well. I got a picture today. So,
A little tongue.
yep. She learned me how to properly just use clippers to be able to take care of their nails, because she's like, oh, let me check those out. They got kind of the hooks. I'm like, I don't know really what to do. So,
Yeah.
it was the new kitty we had, so that's the one she did for us. But no, I know that she's, like I said, she does such great work, and I wondered if that kind of like is that how kind of you got there as well too. But it sounds like you've been around it your entire life as well too, and still at this point as well too, as you're nursing a little one back to health. So awesome. What is something that you do or maybe like that maybe is a guilty pleasure that nobody really knows about? Do you have a guilty pleasure?
Eating Sour Patch Kids, eating donuts, sweets, chips.
I rarely see you eat sweets in my I've known you for a long time.
I don't eat them as much.
You don't normally
but I used to buy.
sweets.
Remember, like if you go to like any grocery store, they have those cakes. They're usually like $3 or $4, like a square. I used to eat a whole thing of that by myself. I don't anymore. Guilty pleasure.
Purposefully wearing silk boxers?
Purposely, yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, there's nothing like insane.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
or is there?
Or is there? Yeah.
It's anything. It'd probably be like some sexual deviant thing.
That checks out. That really checks out.
Like the amount of porn I watch every. No.
Yep.
Jesus.
That definitely checks out. But well, hey, that is actually pretty much the end of my Q&A with you. The things that I wanted to kind of get through as well too. Like I said, I probably even learned stuff as well too here. Just a lot of good stuff. But that was the big piece for me. Is I know we probably actually talked more wrestling in the beginning than I intended to.
It happens.
But that's just how you and me usually get up. I mean, we always just end up going like left and right a lot of times, talking as well too. But one thing I always thought is that I don't think a lot of people realize how much of a complex person you actually really are, and they don't see it. They see a certain portion of you. I mean, you're it's hard to do what you do, to put yourself out there on the internet in front of people. I mean, we do it as well too, but you do it on like a bigger scale,
Right.
So but sometimes it's just kind of nice to kind of see, okay, hey, that they're also in some way a little human, and not just this big Superman out there stomping people in the head and everything as well too.
Yeah, I really don't put a lot of personal stuff on there. It was really when I was doing Impact and I was more in the spotlight. I remember getting fan mail sent to me, and then somehow the guy got my address, and it wasn't anything weird, but it was just weird that he got my address, and so I was just like,
That's weird, man.
Yeah, and so I never really put anything personal out there. But now that I'm not really in the spotlight and that relevancy's kind of gone, but I still don't. I mean, if someone has a question, they can always ask me. I'm pretty open about.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, what's your social security number?
Well, let me tell you. You ain't gonna get much, brother. Let me tell you that right now. But other than that, like usually if fans DM me, as long as there's nothing stupid, I'll usually respond if I see it.
Okay.
Sometimes there's a bunch that are in like if I don't follow you, I don't see it, and then if it's in there, I probably see it like months down the line.
Yeah.
So I'll probably just delete it, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I like opening up and sharing stuff.
Yeah,
It's fun.
I think it's fun, and you're I talked about recently with a few people as well too. Is like growing up in our era, you had to hide being a nerd, and now it's a lot different because the people that we grew up with are running stuff and ruling the world. So
Nerds
it's
rule
fun
the
to be
world
able
in a
to.
sense.
Yep, exactly. It's fun to kind of talk about and look back on that sort of stuff that kind of has driven you, or the fun stuff that makes you who you are. So that said, I want to give you the opportunity, if you'd like. You can do however you want. You can cut a promo, whether it's about you or yourself, about being involved in B&B, or if you just however you want to go. Cut a promo. If you can put something together, I know it's point blank, but I know you're always turning. If you want to cut a promo right now, I'm giving you a platform to do it.
Well, I hope you really tuned in and you watched as I poured my soul out. I poured my heart out. The mocha skin manimal pulled back the curtain on so much, but I left that curtain a little bit here just to keep you guessing. But man, do me a favor. Support, set the tone. And if you're watching, I hope people are watching. I hope people tuned in. And if you're watching the YouTube one, I hope you're paying attention to that. Support, set the tone. Support Banter and Babble. If you're a fan of mine, make sure you check these guys out. They run a really good podcast. I'm constantly retweeting it or reposting it or whatever. I know you've seen it if you follow me. Give them a like. Look at some of their shorts if you just want a quick sample, because they deserve a bigger audience. And they should have a bigger audience. And if I can help, that means you guys can help in any way possible. So I'm reaching out to anybody that I know to give these guys a chance, give them a like, give them a follow, and give them some views, and then pass on the word and pay it forward. And nothing really promo-wise, just straight up talking to you. Also, but if you really want to do me a favor, on top of that, you start telling the world that Rohit Raju needs to be back on TV.
Damn
that's
right.
what needs to happen. You guys need some mocha skin manimal in your life.
Damn right.
And I need some spotlight and camera time, baby.
And I'm right now putting in, if you're out there, if you're watching the Twitch as well too, and we'll have some of the links later on as well too. Make sure to support and follow Rohit as well too.
Right.
You can find him on Twitter at the Rohit Raju, Instagram /RajuZane80, and then of course make sure to stop by ProWrestlingTees.com /wrestler t-shirts Rohit, or you can just type in ProWrestlingTees.com or Pro Wrestling Tees Rohit. You'll find him there as well too. He's got a lot of sweet shirts and a lot of merch out there as well too. I'm wearing one of the older ones. I gotta get an update of the Wu-Tang one as well too.
Wu-Tang.
But you gotta check out his merch. He's got some great shirts out there as well too. So gotta share the love as always. And I do appreciate the reshares and those retweets and the titty jiggles that you're just doing now as well too.
That'll bring him in. Titty jiggles.
But lastly, before I let everybody go and we sit around and just kind of converse and hang out here. You've been talking for a while about, wanting to do content of some sort. It's time. It's a lot of things, and that's the big piece of it as well too. So, I've told you before, and this is why I want to say this, and I've said it a couple times already tonight. This is a platform for you. So, at any time when we can get you on here, or you can come over and we talk about a topic or two, or it's one topic or whatever it is, we'll plan for it. I wanted this to be the first, kind of like an introduction to who you are, a little bit behind the scenes, but going forward, our conversations are probably going to be boring to some, but pretty thick in getting into some of the fandoms and different things as well too. So, if I can help get you to that place as well too, or give you a spot where you feel like you can do that, we're going to, use that for you as well too. So, whether something's bugging you,
what's bugging you, Murph?
You know it. I knew you would know. Yep.
Gaines
bugging me. Or just some things that are just head scratchers for you or whatever it is. And it doesn't even to be anything that either of us have any knowledge about. That's the great thing that I want to do with this content and this show is, sometimes hot seat, sometimes Q&A, sometimes conversation, sometimes there's nothing and we just kind of go. And that's always going to be the plan, is to have it kind of like an open-ended and a rotation, and depending on either the person or what's going on. So you'll definitely see Rohit back here is what I'm trying to get to, long-winded for sure. But make sure to give him some love and follows out there. And dude, I've known you since 2007. You're still my favorite wrestler. We always talk about all the we know The Rock, but you always still be my favorite wrestler. You always will be. I just love being able to be involved all these years of watching you grow and do what you do and be there as well too to support, because when you're doing well and having success and laughing and just even when you were just locally in town, man, it'd been a minute since I got to see you local. You know what I mean? Or just, it was a fun show to see that. So, you do your thing, you do it well, and we love it. So, I just appreciate, over the years to be able to continue to grow and be friends and, share a lot of the same things as well too. So it's always just a pleasure. And we don't get a chance to hang out a whole lot these days because we're always so busy as well.
Being adults, which is dumb.
Which sucks. So It's nice to be able to do this either way. But I do appreciate you taking the time to come and do this for me. This has been this passion project for a while.
I appreciate you having me, man. You've always been one of my, when I was talking about Kurt, you and Kurt have been my guys that have always supported me when people told me this was dumb, don't follow it, you need to be doing this. You and Kurt were two of the guys that were always like, "No, man, do it. Keep doing it.
absolutely.
You know, you're good at it. Keep doing it." So, and I appreciate that big time.
No, always, forever, man, too. So, but that's going to do it for us as well, just overall. So thank you again for coming through if you're here live. If you're not, hey, just tell us what you thought of the conversation. If you got some comments, maybe even some questions that Rohit might feel that he would answer next time as well too, throw that down in any of the comments as well too on YouTube, and you'll find us pretty much everywhere. If you rather listen to us audio, check out Spotify; it'll be there as well too. So, but I'm not sure for. As far as schedule, I know right now, dude's out of town. There's no actual B&B proper coming up this following week, but we do got Deadpool and Wolverine. We're seeing Thursday, you, me, and some of the crew. And then the Olympics weekend comes out after that, so I'm going to be busy then. But hopefully in the next couple weeks, I think in 2 weekends, I'm trying to get half-ass beer review Josh on here so we can have a conversation as well too. Cool. So stay tuned for all that. But we appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much as always for the support. Have a good evening, and we'll talk real soon.